Chapter 369. Yesterday, after Li Shimin hosted a banquet for everyone, he discussed with the officials. After that, he discussed with the other officials how to deal with the locust plague. He even told them about Zhang Feng's plan without holding anything back. He also told them about how to set up a bone-strengthening powder factory and how to collect locusts. In fact, it was very simple. That was to use the human wave tactic and the drug to collect locusts. However, now that they had encountered Tubo and Tuyuhun, they had to think about it carefully. This plan could be used in the Tang dynasty. What was it? It was to generate revenue for the Tang dynasty, stimulate consumption, and make a lot of money. However, once this method was spread, how much money would the Tang dynasty make? No more. Therefore, the officials were not stupid. Therefore, everyone used their imagination to the best of their ability. After having lunch in the imperial palace yesterday, they discussed a set of targeted policies. That was to use such a move against their own people. But what about against Tufan? I have the drug. But Lao Tzu will grind it into powder and you'll buy it. Then, the drug would not be as mild as the Tang dynasty's pesticide. As long as it could kill locusts. As for the rest, that would depend on their own luck. Moreover, there was one more important point. That was the planned army of chickens, ducks, and pigs. The Tang dynasty could not collect so many chickens and ducks from all over the world in a short time, and it would take a lot of time and energy. It was better to collect materials locally. Didn't Tubo want to beg me? Fine. Show me your sincerity. I'll help you raise these things for free. Then these things will have to work for me. Let's talk about the chickens, ducks, and pigs first. Someone did a calculation. If the two countries, Jiannan Circuit, Longyu Circuit, and Yuzhou Circuit could gather tens of millions of chickens, ducks, and pigs, and so on, they would first use the pesticide to stun these things, then mobilize the army and the people to catch and collect them. Then they would send these animals to eat. Not only could they do it all at once, but they could also make the chickens, ducks, and pigs look for food on their own. They did not even need to be fed. Moreover, they could get countless eggs every day. What was that? That was another way to generate revenue. And all of that was for free. And that pig's head. He would give birth to piglets, wouldn't he? Then the piglet that was born would be his. Borrowing the chicken to lay eggs. This group of civil officials was very crafty. Therefore, Li Shimin was not worried about this matter. He left it to them to deal with. In the face of great benefits, these ministers were unusually united. What about cattle, sheep, horses, and fodder? No. If the locusts were ground into powder, not only could it be eaten by humans, it could also be eaten by livestock. When the time comes, the strong ones will stay and the old, weak, sick, and disabled will be replaced. I don't want your cattle, sheep, or horses. If you give me 10 million now, when I return it to you, as long as it's enough, I don't care if you're an old horse or something, as long as you have 4 hooves. Everyone in the political announcement hall was clear on this point. At this moment, everyone was quarreling over this matter. Even Bardal and Ao Raj were roaring until their throats were hoarse. But since they were alone, they could only swallow the grievance in their hearts and sign this agreement with Zhang Sunwuji. They even stamped a bright red palm print on it. Afterwards, Cheng Yaojin personally escorted this item to Li Shimin. Only then did the ministers feel as if they had won a battle. They were all grinning from ear to ear. Old brother, you guys have profited from this matter. Zhang Sunwuji patted Bardal and Ao Raj's shoulders. The two of them nearly beat up Zhang Sunwuji. He was 2F** King Shameless. You can even say such words? Zhang Sunwuji acted as though he did not see it and slowly said, Come. Let me calculate the debt for you guys. You will understand once you see it. Look, this food, I am giving it to you for free, right? You don't need to pay a single cent. We will also help you raise the livestock for free. Otherwise, when your locust plague is over, do you think that under the hunger, the crazy people will not slaughter the livestock to fill their stomachs? Am I right? Look again. The way to control the locusts is extremely complicated, and the price is extremely high. The things I use to control the locusts also cost money. As I said before, I will charge you 1 tael of gold per caddy of medicinal powder. It's not expensive, right? Bardal and Ao Raj suppressed the grievance in their hearts. But what good idea could they have now? If there were other methods, they would have gone to help India or the Turks long ago. But their relationship with India had always been very delicate. It was very easy to lead a wolf into the house. And the Turks were also suffering from the same thing. Then, only the Tang dynasty was left. Although everything seemed to be very stable, the two of them still faintly felt uncomfortable. And when they came again, it was already within their expectations. They had a lot of gold. At most, after the locust plague was over, they would dig for gold for a few years and the money would be back. But the only thing that felt heartache was still the livestock. The only thing they did not understand was why the Tang dynasty was so kind this time. The two of them looked at each other with a bitter smile. Then they weakly cupped their hands. This matter is settled. We will not disturb you any further. We hope that Lord Zhongsun and the lords can put in a few good words in front of His Majesty the Emperor. At that time, we will definitely thank you greatly. Good. Everything can be discussed. Alright, let's go. It's noon time for lunch. This official has set up a banquet at Swallow Descent Restaurant. If the two of you do not mind, please come to Swallow Descent Restaurant. Chapter 370. How is it? Cheng Yaojin entered the imperial study. Li Shimin asked. It's fine. Everything is going according to plan. Good. Pass down the order. Immediately launch an attack on public opinion, and completely control the locusts. There must be no mistakes. At the same time, spread the news of the bone-strengthening powder. Tell Zhongsun Wuji about this matter, and have him handle it. Also, go to the Longyu circuit and keep a close eye on the situation of the Turks. Also, do not hesitate to spread the news of the exchange of grain for livestock to the Turks. Got it. Cheng Yaojin hurriedly got down on one knee and said, This general obeys the decree. After Cheng Yaojin left, Wei Zheng hurried over. The moment he entered the imperial study, he ran into Li Shimin, who was on his way out. Li Shimin walked with Wei Zheng as he asked, Beloved subject, what brings you here? This old subject is worried about Miss Jingshu. Your Majesty, you also know about the matter between Miss Jingshu and Brother Zhang Feng, but is it appropriate to talk about the banquet for the Tubo envoy at Swallow Descent Pavilion? Li Shimin slightly frowned. Swallow Descent Pavilion was divided into an inner and outer courtyard. The outer courtyard was the courtyard that was open to Chang'an, while the inner courtyard was the collection of women with mystical abilities from Chang'an, and even the Tang dynasty. For example, there were those who could play musical instruments, those who were brimming with talent, those who were court prostitutes, or those who were offered to the Tang dynasty by foreign countries. Jingshu, on the other hand, was rather special. She had originally been demoted to a court prostitute, but because of certain matters, she had become a musical prostitute. Moreover, because she had mastered a mystical zither music and her innate beauty, she had instantly become the most wondrous woman in Chang'an. Li Shimin also intended to introduce her to Zhang Feng. In his opinion, if the two of them could succeed, it would be too wonderful. Moreover, didn't this Zhang Feng once ask him that he wanted to marry the most beautiful woman? That was why there was the matter of Cheng Chumo bringing Zhang Feng to barge into Swallow Descent Tower at night. However, Li Shimin had forgotten about this. Basically, Jingshu would always be present when he invited foreign envoys. But this time, all of the officials will be there. If this matter is leaked out, wouldn't it mean that I will harm Brother Zhang Feng? It would have been fine if he hadn't thought about it, but now that he thought about it, Li Shimin had a vague feeling that something was wrong. How about this? My dear minister, immediately send a decree to Zhongsun Wuji to change the location of the banquet to the Imperial Garden. Your Majesty, isn't this kind of banquet a bit inappropriate? Li Shimin shook his head. Forget it, now isn't the time to think about this. Pass down the matter of Jingshu. From now on, treat it as if she doesn't exist. No one is to take the initiative to mention it. If someone asks, just say that you don't know. This subject obeys the decree. Wei Zheng hurriedly cupped his fists and prepared to leave. However, he seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly stopped. Your Majesty, this subject still has one more matter. The Duanwu poetry meet is about to begin. Will Brother Zhang Feng be there? Li Shimin was also stunned. The poetry meet had been decided long ago. Jingshu would definitely be there, and she would also announce the matter that was vaguely mentioned last time. Forget it, you should deal with this matter first. In the future, whether it's you or Zhang Sun, you should personally make a trip to Brother Zhang Feng's place and ask him. If it really doesn't work, cancel this poetry meet. Yes. Wei Jing left. However, before he walked out of the Vermilion Bird Gate, he saw Du Ruhui sitting at the Vermilion Bird Gate. Wei Jing couldn't help but go up and say something to him. Prime Minister Wei, you mean you want me to go? Yes. The sooner this matter is done, the better. We can't let Brother Zhang Feng's identity be exposed. Once his name is out, it will definitely attract Guanlong's attention. For him, this is very bad. Then fine. I'm also waiting for you here. Du Ruhui heard this and nodded. However, Wei Jing was stunned. What are you waiting for me for? Du Ruhui bitterly smiled. Do you still remember the mathematical formula that Brother Zhang Feng gave to my son? I don't know what kind of magic this thing has. My unfilial son actually hid in his room and recited this thing all day long. I also studied it for a while. This thing is indeed very profound and obscure, so I want to see Brother Zhang Feng. At the same time, I also made a copy of this for you. It's fine, you can also study it. While speaking, Du Ruhui took out a copy of the mathematical formula that Du Go had copied and handed it to Wei Jing. Then he said, Actually, I've long wanted to visit Brother Zhang Feng, but I haven't had the time. Since the locust plague has been resolved, do you want to go together? Wei Jing looked at the thing in his hand in shock. In fact, he had seen this thing on the emperor's desk before. It was actually able to make Du Go addicted to it, and now it was said that the crown prince was also addicted to it. Was it really that magical? However, in the face of Du Ruhui's invitation, Wei Jing shook his head and said, I won't go for now. I still have something to do. What's the matter? Jingshu. Oh. Du Ruhui suddenly thought of something and didn't waste any more words. After all, this was not the place to talk. Moreover, both of them were smart people. They understood everything as soon as they spoke. The two cupped their hands and then hurriedly left. Chapter 371. Zhang Feng was very excited, because soon he would be able to ride a tricycle. In the crucible, the molten iron was boiling, and the sweat on Zhang Feng's face was flowing like rain. But he was happy. There were no screws now, but could this be a problem for Zhang Feng? No. He thought of a wonderful thing, and that was mortise and tenon. Melt the molten iron, and then pour it into mortise and tenon, and then heat it red with fire, pass through the place that needed screws to be fixed, and smash it with a hammer. Although the effect was not as good, it was still passable. At least it would not fall apart. However, at this moment, someone knocked on the door of his tavern again. This made Zhang Feng speechless. Although the other parts of the tricycle were hidden, this small crucible was still very conspicuous. If it was someone who did not know this thing, he would not understand. Unless he was a transmigrator, otherwise, who would recognize this? No. There was another kind of person, and that was a carpenter. Or a blacksmith. But Zhang Feng's intuition told him that the person who came was either the old Xiaocai, old He, or Guzi. But it was strange. Last time, after Guzi, Zhu Zi, and the others heard from the drunk old scholar that he was going to open an academy, they basically stopped coming. It seemed to be Zhu Zi's father's idea. However, Zhang Feng was busy these days and did not have time to ask. This matter could only be discussed after the academy was opened. Knock, knock, knock. Zhang Feng dared to extinguish the crucible, and the door was knocked again. Zhang Feng hurriedly got up and shouted as he walked. I'm coming, the door is not locked, just open it. But no one said anything. This made Zhang Feng a little confused. He opened the door, but he finally understood. What was the reason for this? Old Du? Why are you here? Come in quickly. The newcomer was Du Ruhui, who was dressed in plain clothes. When he saw Zhang Feng open the door, he instinctively cupped his fists. However, he was pulled inside by Zhang Feng. Then he closed the door again. However, in that short moment, at least 30 locusts flew into the tavern. After asking Du Ruhui to sit down, Zhang Feng asked in confusion, Old Du, you're here today? It's all because of that brat Dabing. Du Ruhui said snappily. What's wrong with flatbread? Zhang Feng was shocked. Could it be that this guy had gone crazy from studying the division formula? He wasn't worried about others, but he was a little worried about calligraphy addict Du Dabing. Back then, it was because this guy was 2F** king long-winded that Zhang Feng gave him this toy. He even deliberately said that he would only be considered a master if he could calculate the division of numbers within 3 digits in one go. Could it be that this guy, old Du, is Dabing alright? Sigh. He's fine. It's just that these days he hasn't left the house. I've been hearing him in his room all day long. That's why I'm here to ask if you have any good ideas. It can't go on like this. Brother Zhang Feng, can you show me? About this, Zhang Feng was a little confused. This was a good thing. One had to know that in a few decades, this would be a new toy that would sweep through the Great Tang. Wasn't this good? Although there were less than 20 people studying mathematics in the Imperial College during Dao's time, what did this mean? However, these 20 people were the elites of the elites in the end. They basically established the legacy of Zhengguan, Wu Zetian's Golden Age, and even the Kaiyuan Golden Age later on. They laid a foundation that couldn't be ignored. This was the prosperity created by a group of people whose brain speed was as high as 75% under the leadership of an emperor who appreciated them. Without these people, would the Great Tang be able to prosper and prosper financially? No. At that time, they would be cheated to death, not to mention so many people who coveted the Tang dynasty. Not to mention that the Tang dynasty only needed a ship and a flag to make people tremble. Without these people, perhaps the influence of the Kaiyuan Golden Age of the Tang dynasty would still be there, but it would not be so glorious and even affect the whole world. Why? There were dozens of them, and they did nothing but think about this every day. How could you beat them? That would be a strange thing. Mathematics. It not only included addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It also included the twists and turns of military planning, the division of geographical routes, and so on. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng elbowed Du Ruhui mysteriously and said, Old Du, let me ask you something. Say it. Look at your son Dabing. He is so obsessed with this. Do you think he will become a monster in 5 years? Du Ruhui's face darkened and said, Brother Zhang Feng, this old man came here today for this matter. That man, doesn't he want to protect the country and serve the country? He seems to be obsessed all day. Don't be sarcastic to me. No. Zhang Feng waved his hand repeatedly. I'm not being sarcastic. To be honest, I believe you have seen the division. Let me ask you, what do you think will happen if this thing is used in business calculation? What if it is used in other places? Chapter 372. Du Ruhui was a little dumbfounded. He had some understanding of mathematics before. It was precisely because Du Go was obsessed with it that he wanted to see what was so fascinating about it. That was why he seriously researched it. Although this thing was very complicated, it contained things that couldn't be learned anywhere else. Du Ruhui believed that once this thing was really developed, it would definitely have very incomprehensible effects in terms of application, business, people, and so on. After all, this thing was something that Emperor Yang of Sui, Yang Guang, had spent a lot of effort to obtain. Although the Sui dynasty had been destroyed, this thing had been preserved. Not for any other reason, but because this thing was really useful. But he thought about how Du Go liked to study these strange things, and he was afraid that if he tirelessly studied this thing all day long, it would not be good for Du Go. For example, being possessed. Brother Zhang Feng, I know what you mean. I'm just worried that my son will be possessed because of this. It shouldn't be, right? Zhang Feng rubbed his chin, not daring to be sure. This guy was a stubborn donkey. Once he fell into it, he would definitely study it to death. He was a little guilty. The last time he gave him the division table, on one hand to show off. On the other hand, it was because this guy was too damn annoying. How about this? I'll give you something else later. When you go back, tell Dabing that this is another method of division, called multiplication. If that's the case, won't it make him even more? It won't. Zhang Feng shook his head. Lao Tzu had personally come looking for him, and because he wanted to show off last time, he gave this thing to Du Go. Damn it, if something happened, it would be hard to say. Now that he was giving him the multiplication table, although he was a little reluctant, this was something that would happen sooner or later. Anyway, De Bing would be a free tutor. It was only a matter of time before he studied it now and in the future. And this thing, unless he did not care about his life, if he could study it at the same time. In that case, Zhang Feng had nothing to say. He could only give him a thumbs up and ask Chen Tinyu to throw this idiot into the Wei River for a bath. Then he would ask him to figure out why people could sometimes float on water, and sometimes not. Zhang Feng had 10,000 ways to deal with this kind of bookworm. Seeing that Du Ruhui was about to ask about the multiplication table, Zhang Feng hurriedly changed the topic. He knew that if he asked Du Ruhui about it, he wouldn't be able to explain it to him within a day. Oh right, old Du. You must have come here for the bone-strengthening powder, right? Zhang Feng had a look that said, "Don't try to lie to me." From time to time, he would glance at Du Ruhui's ruddy face. Du Ruhui sighed. Actually, that is indeed the case. However, do you know about the Tubo envoy? I know. How was it, old Du? Was my prediction accurate? Like I said, how could His Majesty not think of this? Why? Could it be that Laoli didn't act ahead of time? Zhang Feng patted Du Ruhui's shoulder and boasted. You have tasted the sweetness of this matter. You also know how frightening the prophets are. Among all of you, I think you are the most honest and most like a businessman. Look at Laoli, he looks like a family head. How could he understand these twists and turns? Also, that old son is too cunning. I advise you to have less contact with him in the future. However, if you all form a business alliance, you know what old son is suited for. As for that old Wei, he is a F*** government official. And old Feng, that idiot. Oh right, does he not have a son? In front, Du Ruhui was very pleased to hear this. Who didn't want to be flattered? Moreover, it was a strange person like Zhang Feng. However, the more he talked, the more Du Ruhui felt that something was wrong. This idiot was inquiring about their background. He hurriedly chuckled and said, about that, old Feng's son has always been managing things in Longyu. To tell you the truth, the few of us have already formed a merchant alliance. Otherwise, how could the few of us compete with others? And that Guanlong, you know. Where was Feng Yai? Of course, he was managing things behind the scenes. As one of the 4 great devil kings of Chang'an, how could he be well? However, Qing Chimo, Du Go Zhangsun, and the others had all surfaced. If there was no one to clean up the mess behind the scenes, it would have been King exposed long ago. Although Du Ruhui knew that this matter couldn't be hidden for long, at least now it was impossible to reveal everything to Zhang Feng. At least, before His Majesty personally announced this matter, whoever dared to say it would be His Majesty's enemy. His Majesty's brother, the only brother that His Majesty would always remember. Once this relationship was revealed, who could guarantee that they would still be brothers? Therefore, before His Majesty said it, none of them dared. Every time they came out, Feng Yai would be like facing a great enemy. Thousands of brocade guards would spread out. Once there were a few people who knew them, they would be invited to drink a cup of tea. As for what tea, that was all up to Feng Yai, the Devil King's preference. The Imperial Power's special permission was not a joke. Who dared to say anything when the small card was revealed? Even if you were a prince, if your leg was broken, you wouldn't have a place to cry. By the way, Brother Zhang Feng, speaking of which, I heard that you are going to participate in a meeting? Du Ruhui hurriedly changed the topic. He didn't dare to continue this topic. He had experienced Zhang Feng's power. A little carelessness would lead you into a ditch. Zhang Feng heard this and instantly frowned. It's fine if you don't say it. Now that you mention it, I feel like beating someone. Damn bastard, what is Chen Tinyu doing these days? Why didn't I see him? And those bastards, what are they doing? If it wasn't for those bastards, would I be like this? Du Ruhui's mouth twitched. Don't say that. Didn't I hear that you are going to set up an academy? This is a good thing. And if you are the champion, then Jingshu will rightfully become yours. All the scholars in Chang'an wouldn't dare to say anything. You must know that Jingshu is the signature of Yanlai Restaurant. You should know what kind of place Yanlai Restaurant is. And in this poetry gathering, not only will you be able to win the beauty, you will also be able to spread the name of the academy. Why not? As for Chen Tiniu and the others, they are a little busy these days. When Du Ruhui said this, he couldn't help but sigh. Holding up the bowl of wine, he drank. Although Zhang Feng knew about this matter, he also understood that this poetry gathering was a must. But when he thought about how he couldn't even see the shadow of those guys for a few days, he couldn't vent his anger even if he wanted to. This made him a little anxious. But when he saw Du Ruhui acting like this, he couldn't help but be stunned. "Old Du, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing much. I just feel that our family business is getting bigger and bigger. Not only do we have connections with various parties in Jinla, but we're also an allied chamber of commerce. You know everything about this. When there are more people, not only will their mouths be noisy, but there's also one thing about people. Once they see benefits and there's no restraint, trouble will come." Zhang Feng understood. This guy had encountered the drawbacks of the family business. That is, there are too many idle people and too few people who can do things. Zhang Feng couldn't help but laugh. "I thought something had happened to you, old Du." "That's it. You just put your heart in your stomach. Since you are here today, then as brothers, I will give you some pointers. I guarantee that you, old Du, will enjoy it for the rest of your life." Chapter 373. Really? Du Ruhui was excited. He was already very old this year. Although he had worked hard and the emperor had never mistreated him, he was still somewhat dissatisfied. He hadn't done anything spectacular. The more time he spent with Zhang Feng, and the more he was influenced by Zhang Feng's calligraphy at home, the more Du Ruhui wanted to create something that could be passed down. He didn't know what this thing was, but he had this impulse. Not only him, but everyone who had interacted with Zhang Feng was also like this. Not to mention anything else, just the things that Zhang Feng had said and done, which one of them wasn't enough to shake the heavens and shake the earth. At this moment, seeing Zhang Feng like this, he couldn't help but tear up. Although Du Go was also very hardworking, the father knew better. Du Go and the others were destined to help the crown prince ascend the throne and become important members of the next generation's leadership. But he also knew that Du Go's temperament greatly disappointed the crown prince and the others. There was no other reason than that Du Go was too serious. Moreover, he was a stubborn person. He couldn't compare to Wei Zheng. Li Chengqian couldn't compare to Li Shimin either. Who knew if the Du family would be able to flourish under Du Go's leadership once these old fellows were no longer around? But ever since he learned that Zhang Feng had passed down something different to each of them, Du Ruhui's heart had become heated. He wanted the Du family to be stable. On one hand, it depended on Du Go's fortune in the future. On the other hand, it depended on whether he could create a name for the Du family before 100 years. Something that could ensure that the Du family wouldn't wither for at least 100 years. And this was something that Du Ruhui had been brooding over. Especially after seeing the Locust's great undertaking and the table of division, he felt even more urgent. "Old Du, although we haven't had many opportunities to meet, I, Zhang Feng, believe that I'm quite good at reading people. From what you said just now, I've actually already seen it. So when Iron Bull and the others came to find me, I actually already understood. Actually, Old Li has already thought of this long ago, let alone you. If you want your descendants to continue living, then the path of commerce must not be the end. Instead, it must be how you can make use of this relationship to your advantage, so that your descendants can enter an official career. That's why you let each of them master a technique." Du Ruhui asked. Zhang Feng nodded. "Of course. To be honest, I didn't think so much at first. But in this feudal era, the eldest son is bound to be the heir of the family business. But what about the second son? When you're here, perhaps nothing will be a problem. But have you ever thought about how the brotherhood will develop once you're behind the scenes because of their interests? That's why I saw their dreams in Iron Bull and the others. That's why I said it casually. I didn't expect these bastards to be so good. They're not stupid. They have their own dreams. It's only because they can't get recognition that they're dissolute. They want to prove their existence, or they want to use this method to numb themselves and attract your attention." Du Ruhui's expression couldn't help but change a little. All these years, it was true that they had always been strict with their son. But he knew what Dugo liked. What he liked? As a father, he didn't know at all. Brother Zhangfeng. Du Ruhui felt a little guilty. He sighed heavily and said, "Thank you. Isn't this what brothers should do? Actually, these are all things in the future. At the very least, they have to wait until they graduate from the academy before they can really take charge of some things, or enter the imperial court and so on. The current situation is actually very obvious. With a big family and a big business, there are bound to be some problems. People are actually quite contradictory. They always want to be understood, but they're afraid that others will see through them." Zhang Feng sighed and said, "But we will always encounter a lot of things that we don't understand in life, or on the way forward. So if you care too much about other people's opinions, then your life will become a piece of cloth for your crotch. Whatever other people fart, you'll have to take it and bear it." This, Du Ruhui was shocked. Although these things seemed easy to understand and were a little vulgar, if one carefully thought about it, they would realize that there were many, many wise sayings contained within. "Brother Zhangfeng, I've learned something." Du Ruhui was so excited that his whole body was shaking. He didn't speak much. It wasn't that he didn't have anything to say, but that in the imperial court, one sentence would often cause him to fall into the abyss. Moreover, the imperial court was a big divat, so he cared too much about what others said. But now that he thought about it, Du Ruhui suddenly felt enlightened. Just like what Brother Zhangfeng said, if everyone cared too much about what others said and how others felt, then what was the difference between that and a crotchcloth? There was no difference. Involuntarily, Du Ruhui stood up excitedly and bowed like a Confucian. He said, "Today, to be able to have Brother Zhangfeng explain my doubts, old Du is really..." Enough. You're already so old. Don't come and bow to me. Do you still want to give me a memorial tablet? Chapter 374. Zhang Feng was speechless. The most annoying people were scholars like them. If you're a scholar, you're a dabbler. If you're a businessman, you're also a dabbler. How could he not go and pick up the things that sour elementary scholar had thrown away? Why did they have to be so scholarly? Did they think they were Confucian scholars? Were they not? All right, just remember what I said. As for the rest, you can do as you see fit. Old Du, let me ask you. Have you started the bone-strengthening powder yet? I'm waiting to get my share of the money. Du Ruhui was speechless. Just a moment ago, they were talking about serious matters. Now they were talking about money? If you really want money, just say it. I believe that as long as the emperor hears about it, he will give it to you no matter how much you want, right? Do you have to be so obsessed with money? It's all right. We're trying it out in Longyu, and the results are good for now. So Tai Nyo and the others have gone to help. And you know those guys, they're all debauches in Chang'an City. If they go and spread the news, they'll be better off than us old guys. Zhang Feng nodded. Not bad. That's a good idea. But wouldn't it be better if we let this happen in Chang'an? Why should we let it happen in Longyu? Sigh. Du Ruhui sighed. You don't know. The benefits involved in this matter are too terrifying. Moreover, Longyu is the base camp of us old fellows. Last time, the locust eggs incident had already established some connections. It's not as powerful as it is in Chang'an. Therefore, we have no choice but to put it in Longyu. Du Ruhui told Zhang Feng about what had happened after the Fish Emperor had discussed the matter with Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng could not help but hear some clues from it. They did not want to use Chang'an, but had to go to Longyu, a place surrounded by wolves. They had encountered a big problem. Old Du, tell me honestly, did you run into some trouble? Alas! Du Ruhui couldn't help but let out a long sigh when he saw that Zhang Feng was finally on the right track. Brother, my heart is bitter. I was too embarrassed to talk about this at first, but since you asked, it's not good for us to not talk about it. So sigh. Zhang Feng pursed his lips. Then don't say it. Did you have to show an expression as if Lao Tzu had something on his mind the moment you walked in? This caused Lao Tzu to ponder for a long time. Old Du, we're brothers, so Mynheer knows my temperament. If there's anything you need, just tell me. If I can help, I'll definitely help. But let me say this first. If you offend the emperor or commit any murder or arson, I'll immediately send you to the authorities. Du Ruhui waved his hand. Do I look like someone who would commit murder or arson? It's just that ever since you've established a relationship with Zhang Sunwuji and some people in the imperial court, such things have to be reported. So Lao Li and the others thought about sending some bone-strengthening powder. But now we're in big trouble. Basically, everyone in Chang'an is here. Old Chen's house is full of copper coins. You say this? If they only wanted to make money, that would be a good thing. But they just had to King bring their people in. They can't do anything and leave nothing behind. I can't afford to offend them. I want to chase them away, but I can't do it openly. So, because of this matter, we old brothers have been worrying so much that our hair has turned white. Zhang Feng was speechless. That's it. Yes. No, brother Zhang Feng, we've already done that. Do you still think it's not serious enough? Zhang Feng shrugged and asked in disbelief. I thought it was something serious. It turns out that it's just a trivial matter. Don't you feel embarrassed? We've been friends for almost a year. In this year, whenever you guys drink here, you'd better keep your ears open. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done such a stupid thing. Fine. Zhang Feng slapped his head. If it were someone else, he could really say something. But it was Old Chen who did it. And this matter, Zhang Feng thought for a second. Only Old Chen could do it. This silly guy. How dare you accept any kind of money? Zhang Feng was speechless. Scold Old Chen? He didn't dare. Old Chen's son slapped him to the back. If he scolded Old Chen behind his back, wouldn't he send Lao Tzu away with a slap? Fine, fine. Tell Old Chen not to accept any kind of money. Be careful that he doesn't give away all the money he earns. We won't get any benefits at all. Zai. Got it. Du Ruhui nodded like he was pecking rice. Of course, the matter he was asking about was not business. It was the civil and military officials in the imperial court. It was as if these people had fallen into the eyes of money. He was worried that these fellows would go crazy thinking about money and do something illegal. Moreover, they wouldn't do anything in the imperial court. This was also the reason why Du Ruhui had come this time. There were people who did everything else, and they did a good job. But he, the Minister of Personnel, and Fang Xianling, assisted the emperor in handling the imperial court. At this time, because of the locust incident, everything was left to him. However, the order in the imperial court was giving him a headache. He didn't even participate in the emperor's discussion on the management of the locust plague. It was not that he didn't want to, but the imperial court was still operating. At this time, Du Ruhui and Zhang Feng were silent. Du Ruhui was waiting for Zhang Feng to give him an idea. But Zhang Feng was different. He was troubled by something. Chapter 375. Zhang Feng was very conflicted. Once this matter was out, that smart emperor would definitely think of this at the first moment. Definitely, this thing was a great weapon for him to brag about when he went to the imperial court. Moreover, he wanted to use this thing to build a good relationship with Fang Mao, Du Duan and Wei Zheng. Was it appropriate to say it at this time? However, looking at old Du's worried face, Zhang Feng could not help but feel helpless. Forget it, old Du, don't worry about this trivial matter. Sigh. Lao Tzu prepared this thing to build a good relationship with Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Wei Zheng when he goes to the imperial court. Forget it, you got lucky. Zhang Feng muttered to himself gloomily. However, Du Ruhui almost blurted out when he heard this. He pointed at his own nose, and was about to shout out. Don't wait, I am Du Ruhui. However, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Although he was excited, Du Ruhui also knew the importance of this matter. Brother Zhang Feng. Then I, old Du, will thank you here. When the time comes and you want to enter the imperial court as an official, I, old Du, will definitely give you all I have and recommend you. Heh. Zhang Feng smiled. Old Du, are you doubting me? No. Du Ruhui waved his hand repeatedly. Zhang Feng did not want to fool him anymore. Moreover, he still had serious business to do. Alright, this matter is very easy to handle. You just have to remember that no matter who it is, they will have to be controlled by you when they go to your territory. As the saying goes, a country has its laws and a family has its rules. As a merchant company, Naturally, there are rules to speak of. If everyone is like this, then I advise you not to do this business. The few of us are doing fine. Why are you looking for trouble? Zhang Feng shrugged. Since it's already happened, let's not talk about it anymore. How about you tell Lao Li exactly what happened? Actually, the method is very simple. It's just a sign-in list. What's more, it's a work registration form. Du Ruhui, who was listening carefully, was dumbfounded. What the hell? Sign-in sheet. Sign-in at work? What is this? Listen to me first. Zhang Feng waved his hand and poured Du Ruhui a bowl of wine. He took out a plate of fried yellow locusts from the counter and said, Actually, you can also understand this as going to work. Do you understand? You're the one who works for me. Do you come in the morning and leave after work at night? Only this counts as a day? Yes, that makes sense. Du Ruhui nodded thoughtfully. But this sign-in, what does it mean? Zhang Feng had so many shocking sentences that they were numb to it. So they were not surprised. However, this new term still surprised Du Ruhui. More than that, he was shocked. How could he not be shocked? At this time, because of the locusts, the court was basically crazy. They were all immersed in it. So much so that many court affairs could not be carried out. If this went on, everyone would want to get rich. How bad would that be? Although the emperor knew about it, and did it on purpose, it was not the right time to clean up the mess after the plague of locusts was over. There were many things that had to be done. The trade with Zhenla, the Tubo and Tuyuhan, and the plan against the Turks in the future. Which one of these things did not need people to do? If there was a slight mistake, it would definitely cause an irreparable disaster. Du Ruhui could not help but be excited. Brother Zhang Feng, what do you think this sign-in sheet is? Is it a kind of rule? No. You can say that it is a kind of rule. But this thing only restricts whether that person is on duty, whether he comes or not, and whether he has done anything. As for the rest, it's up to you. I don't know how you're going to run your Chamber of Commerce, but as for how you're going to run it, you have to figure it out yourself. Yes. But you just have to remember one thing. Hang this watch in the most conspicuous place. I don't need you to say anything about who is sleeping soundly on duty, or who doesn't come, or who slacks off. For this benefit, I think there are still many people who want to fight to the death for this big business of locusts. When the time comes, you only need to write down the details of each of them working for you in a book and hang it there. People want their faces and trees want their bark. When the time comes, you just need to hand out this soft knife, and there will naturally be countless people who will stab it for you. And it doesn't matter which high official that person is working for. After all, the benefits of the locusts are there, and the meat is only so big, isn't it? That's it. Du Ruhui was dumbfounded. However, he had truly heard something that made his hair stand on end. As long as this thing was hung in the imperial palace or the imperial court, who would dare slack off? Who would dare to ignore the emperor's orders? Who would dare to sleep and drink while on duty? Who would dare to not come to the imperial court for no reason? Or to just call in sick and have fun at home? Who would dare? Chapter 376. Du Ruhui's turbid eyes involuntarily flashed with a hint of excitement. Just a moment ago, he was still thinking about how he could do something spectacular in his lifetime. Now, didn't he have it? Didn't that person want to do something? Who didn't? Everyone wanted to. Especially people like him, who had basically reached the end of his official position. If he could do something spectacular when he was about to retire, even if he died on the spot, he would not have lived in vain. This was to bring honor to his ancestors. This was the blessing he set up for the next generation of his Du family. At the thought of this, Du Ruhui was so excited that he wanted to get up and bow again, but was pressed down on the bench by Zhang Feng speechlessly. Okay, do you really want to shorten my life? If you really want to thank me, then do it well, and make more money for me. This is the key. This bone-strengthening powder. Damn it, if I had known, I wouldn't have told you. Wouldn't it be better if I kept quiet and didn't make a fortune? Zhang Feng was a little depressed. Brother Zhang Feng, today I thank you for clearing my doubts. Today, I won't disturb you anymore. Our Du family will never forget your great kindness. Okay. If there's nothing else, then get out of here. Why are you being so literary? Do you think you are a great writer of that generation? Zhang Feng got up and drove him away speechlessly. Du Ruhui also knew how to behave. He hurriedly got up, dug out 3 taels of silver from his embroidered robe, and put it on the table before leaving. He was not stingy, but he really didn't have much money on him. When he walked out of the pub, he looked at the locusts all over the sky. In Du Ruhui's view, how were those locusts? They were just copper coins flying all over the sky. Du Ruhui turned around and glanced at Zhang Feng's little tavern. Only then did he salute Zhang Feng as a peer before hurriedly leaving. Obviously, he forgot to ask Zhang Feng for the multiplication table. At this time, how could he still remember? Even if he remembered, so what? This thing won't run away. They can just come back when the time comes. However, Brother Zhang Feng's method must be implemented as soon as possible. This will play a big role in the emperor's plan. Furthermore, in the future, all the officials would have to use a new set of rules and regulations. To the Minister of Personnel, this was a very important matter. He had a premonition that if he really did that, the situation in the imperial court would be completely different. Who would dare to slack off? Who would dare to delay? Those who are eyeing this position will do everything they can to take you down. Although it was shameful to do so, so what? However, the thing that Brother Zhang Feng was talking about, could it really be applied? Du Ruhui couldn't help but feel confused again. If this matter was done well, then it would definitely be remembered for eternity. But what if? What if this thing didn't have any miraculous effects and instead made people feel disgusted? Du Ruhui couldn't help but slowly stop in his tracks. Looking at the locusts all over the sky, he couldn't help but think of the faces of everyone in the imperial court. Even the emperor, the princes, the lords, and the local officials. Du Ruhui couldn't help but understand. A thin layer of cold sweat appeared on his forehead, and it couldn't help but drip down. If he followed Zhang Feng's plan and followed it, he would definitely be condemned by the officials in less than a day. This was a business model. He forgot one thing. That was, until the end, they told Zhang Feng that they were businessmen. This thing was suitable for business, but not for the management system of the imperial court. Now that the imperial court had its own set of perfect system, if this thing was introduced at this time, although it could be said to have some effect, it would be the opposite of what the retired emperor and the emperor had set. Although the system of the previous dynasty was followed, to a large extent, there were slight changes. But the current system was the opposite of what the previous system had set. Once he dared to mention it, he would definitely be accused of treason. He dared to change the system set by the emperor and the retired emperor. What was this? If this wasn't treason, then what was? Du Ruhui took a deep breath. He might as well not leave. Sitting under the black locust tree at the entrance of Huitong Square, he stared blankly at the crown of the tree, which still hadn't been eaten up by the locusts. He recalled the original system of the imperial court, the criminal law, and all of them. Then he compared them with a vague thing in his heart one by one. Slowly, he finally figured it out. It turns out that the key point lies in the completeness of this system. The degree of completeness of this system is too high, and it still needs the officials in the imperial court to supervise the implementation. But once an illegal person takes advantage of this loophole, it will definitely cause a great impact on the order of the imperial court. But what if we add a little reward for good and punish evil to the original system of officials? And this thing of signing in at the imperial court? Chapter 377. For the next few days, all the officials were busy preparing for the locusts. There were even rumors in Chang'an city from time to time. The so-called guidance from a master was a punishment from God. It was a supreme auspicious sign given by God out of pity for the Tang dynasty. But the people didn't understand. It had eaten up all the food and even the wild vegetables that everyone liked to eat. How could this thing be auspicious? It was as wide as a yuksha. How could this be called auspicious? The people were puzzled. But at this moment, if you said so, there would definitely be people pointing at your nose and scolding you for being ignorant. Why? Because this news came from the inside of the palace. His Majesty had already said that this thing was an auspicious sign. How could you say that it was a pest with a snap of your fingers? Are you tired of living? Such things kept happening in Chang'an City. As the matter was fermenting, the news of the mysterious bone-strengthening powder had also spread out. It was even more bizarre. In a tea house, the storyteller came early in the morning, which was rare. The locusts were all over the sky. Basically, no one could do anything. If they stayed at home, they would get sick. It was also unbearable to stay with their wives every day. Fortunately, now everyone had a little money left in their pockets. So this cheap and affordable tea house became the best place for people to escape the summer heat and find work. The tea house, which usually had a bleak business, now became the most popular place in Chang'an City. Bang! When the storyteller, Blind Wang, slapped the tea table hard, the noisy tea house instantly quieted down. Blind Wang was not in a hurry. He slowly pulled out the folding fan from the back of his head and slowly fanned himself. Then he said, "Dear fellow villagers, today Blind Wang will talk about something different. Otherwise, if you've already vomited after hearing about other things, I would have King vomited as well." Ha ha ha. The people burst into laughter and were instantly interested. Blind Wang, what are you going to talk about today? Are you talking about what happened last night with Widow Sun from Happy Village in the east of the city? Or were you chased out by some customer who found out you stole books? Ahahaha. The laughter of the crowd did not make Blind Wang jump up and down. The people of Chang'an had three good things. The first was to squat in Swallow Descent brothel to see the real courtesan. The second was to stroll along the newly built river and stroll around the eastern and western markets with his hands behind his back. However, at this juncture, these two things could not be done. Swallow Descent restaurant's doors were locked tightly, afraid that the lecher would not be able to hold himself back and barge in. As for the riverside, the eastern and western markets had become the breeding grounds of the locusts. That fellow, with a single stomp, you could crush several locusts. Who would dare to go out? What about the third one? Naturally, it was because of Blind Wang. But it was very rare. This time, Blind Wang acted as if he didn't hear the teasing of the crowd. He continued to wave the thick, sticky fan with a smile on his face. Even the words on the paper could not be seen. It was as if he had the pearl of wisdom in his hands. Ayaya. Old man is reading a sage's book. How can a scholar like me do such a dirty thing? Today, old man is going to talk about the auspicious signs flying in the sky. Nonsense. When the crowd heard this, they could not help but roll their eyes. It was this old thing again. Blind Wang said slowly. Last night, I don't know how many of you have heard of the bone-strengthening powder? Bone-strengthening powder? What is that? I seem to have eavesdropped on the boss saying something. It seems that this thing is something extraordinary. Yes. This master is right. Blind Wang suddenly slapped his fan on the palm of his hand and said, "This bone-strengthening powder is indeed a wonderful thing. Last night, outside Taichung Temple, I heard a woman talking about this thing. That woman seemed to be the wife of one of the lords in Taichung Temple. That woman seemed to be asking for the bone-strengthening powder from her old father. I've heard of it. As long as you drink a bowl of the bone-strengthening powder, even though it is only the size of a teacup, it is worth a big bowl of mutton soup." What? This is so magical? Blind Wang, you're not fooling people, are you? How can there be such a thing in this world? Blind Wang shook his head mysteriously. When the crowd was almost finished, he continued. Not only that, old man also heard that this thing can strengthen the bones. Although it is not the thing that can rejuvenate one's youth, the old man in his 70s or 80s only needs to drink this thing for 3 days to straighten his back in an instant. Moreover, he can carry a bucket of water with one hand and walk for 10 miles without blushing or panting. Everyone heard this. They could not help but gasp. Impossible. Blind Wang, maybe you're fooling people again. *CK your grandma. If this thing is really so awesome, why haven't we heard of it? Everyone was furious. However, Blind Wang only moved his lips slightly. This thing fell from heaven when Master Yuan Tiangang prayed to heaven on the birthday of the retired emperor last time. Moreover, the emperor and the retired emperor personally tried it. All the ministers in the court have tried it. Do you think that the emperor is fooling you? This Chapter 378. Li Shimin was very pleased. Especially when he looked at the documents that had been sent back from Chang'an. It was as if he was looking at a lump of gold that had fallen from the sky. The rumors had indeed spread from here. Zhang Sun Wuji was very smart when it came to doing things like this. Moreover, he had already done it once. It would be strange if something went wrong again. Moreover, at this time, everyone had been affected by the locust plague. Everyone had suffered. Who wouldn't want to make money at this time? The matter of the bone-strengthening powder had been settled. Next up, just as Li Shimin was happily thinking about what to do next, he suddenly saw a different memorial in the pile of documents. What was different about it? This memorial was actually sent by Du Ruhui in his personal name. Was there a need to do this? Li Shimin looked at the thick memorial and flipped it open curiously. The words "on duty reward and punishment system" that entered his eyes deeply attracted his attention. Li Shimin couldn't help but be interested. The Minister of Personnel had actually used such a method to hand over the memorial. What did this mean? It was obviously something that could be done by just opening his mouth. That meant, looking at the memorial, the joy on Li Shimin's face slowly froze. Little Gizi summoned Du Ruhui. Yes, Li Shimin's expression turned serious. No wonder he would use such a method to hand over the memorial. If others knew about this, what would it mean? This would be treason. Daring to violate the laws of the imperial court was already a violation of the interests of the imperial family. However, Li Shimin knew that if it were an ordinary person, he wouldn't even look at such a thing. He would just wave his hand. Strike first. However, Du Ruhui was different. If he could say it, it meant that this matter was very serious. Moreover, Li Shimin thought about it. There was indeed a problem with the imperial court system. Moreover, was this really something that Du Ruhui could come up with? He didn't believe it. Instead, he saw Zhang Feng's shadow between the lines. Moreover, didn't Du Ruhui go to Zhang Feng's place the day before yesterday? Thinking of Zhang Feng, Li Shimin's face had a touch of excitement. A moment later, Du Ruhui hurried into the imperial study. This old subject Du Ruhui pays respect to your majesty. Minister Du, please rise. Hurry up and tell me, what's the deal with this reward and punishment? Replying to your majesty. This is something I came across by chance the day before yesterday. Li Shimin pursed his lips. Speak human language. Du Ruhui said. Since your majesty has seen through it, this was indeed Brother Zhang Feng's idea. Now because of the locusts, everyone in the imperial court is united. This is a good thing, but the drawbacks of not doing their duty for a long time still exist. Moreover, now everyone is trying to reap benefits. In the long run, who can respect the discipline of the imperial court? So you discussed with Brother Zhang Feng and came up with this thing. Li Shimin sat next to Du Ruhui and drank tea. He glanced at the memorial on the table and said, "That's right. However, this thing was basically made by this old subject. It was also because of one sentence from Brother Zhang Feng." What sentence? Li Shimin was interested. He said that these people are temporary workers for you. Li Shimin heard this. He couldn't help but frown. But the next moment he couldn't help but ask, do you mean that the system of the imperial court should be strictly improved? Yes, your majesty. You've seen it before. Everyone is lazy. Although your majesty is in favor of spreading the word, you've also seen that the disadvantages are obvious. That is, the people of the 5 families and 7 nobles, as well as the Guanlong and Shandong nobles, don't do anything for the imperial court. As a result, although there are many people in the imperial court, some of them die of boredom, and some of them die of exhaustion. There are even some who take idle jobs and idle around all day. We couldn't target them before, but now that your majesty has taken a side in the matter of the locusts, if we let them go on like this at this time, who in the imperial court wants to do anything for them? I'm worried that if this kind of thing can't be rectified for a long time, the consequences will be unimaginable if everyone in the imperial court imitates it. The big reshuffle this time is an opportunity. That's why when I went to Brother Zhang Feng's place, I was a little depressed, so I went to Brother Zhang Feng to complain. But Brother Zhang Feng thought it was a small matter, so we talked about it. It was also under Brother Zhang Feng's guidance that I came up with this reward and punishment system. Although this system is new, it's all simplified and added according to the original laws of the Tang dynasty. As he spoke, Du Ruhui excitedly knelt on the ground and said, "Your Majesty, this old subject knows the consequences of breaking the laws of the Great Tang without permission. Thus, this old subject risks death to request your Majesty to carry out this decree." Li Shimin was speechless. He personally helped Du Ruhui up and said, "I didn't say anything. I've also seen this. I approved." Chapter 379. In fact, Li Shimin had long wanted to reorganize the court. Every morning he basically wanted to kill people. This was before the locust plan. Now that everything had been dealt with, it was time to reorganize. But he didn't expect that Du Ruhui had thought ahead of him. How could this not make Li Shimin happy? "My dear minister, I approve of this matter." This matter in the court, if I hadn't suppressed the anger in my heart, I would have killed a lot of people. Everyone thinks that I have a good temper. But only you know that I am actually waiting for an opportunity. Guanlong and the 5 surnames and 7 hopes, it's time to reorganize. Li Shimin suddenly felt a little sad. He couldn't predict what would happen if he fought against Guanlong at this time. But this was something that had to be done. A country, a monarch, if he couldn't even control his own people, how could he unify the world? But if they were to clash with these two forces right now? One night, Li Shimin worried about this matter for the whole night. The next morning, at the moment when the morning bell rang, Li Shimin arrived at the political announcement hall early. Looking at the empty imperial court, he suddenly and slowly wrote the word Zhen on the Xian paper. And all the ministers who entered the political announcement hall were stunned. But seeing the emperor in a daze, no one dared to speak and stood quietly. When everyone entered the political announcement hall, Xiao Gizi gently called, "Your Majesty, it's time to go to court." Li Shimin raised his head and looked at the people in the court. "Go to court. Kneel. Long live the emperor. Rise." Li Shimin waved his hand lightly. "Is there a memorial today?" Hearing this, a minister hurriedly got up and said, replying to the emperor, "This old minister has a memorial." Announce. Recently, although the rumors of bone-strengthening powder and locusts have been spread, and the people are running around to tell each other about this matter, and all the people's enthusiasm has soared infinitely, no one complains about this disaster, but there is still a problem. "Oh, what is it?" Replying to your Majesty, this old subject has made some calculations recently. Although we have stored up provisions in and around Chang'an, and the livestock industry has suffered serious losses. Many livestock have even shown signs of starvation. Emperor. Cheng Yaojin cupped his fists and said, "Our army, especially Longyu, has sent an urgent report. The 100,000 horses in our army have almost run out of fodder." In Yuzhou, the garrison in Chang'an and Jiannan province, and other places have also encountered the same problem. The locusts are wreaking havoc. Everything with a bit of green has been gnawed away. What's more, it's the season to fatten up the horses. But Cheng Yaojin didn't say anything. But how could Li Shimin not understand? If things went on like this, sooner or later, all the livestock in the Tang dynasty would starve to death because of the lack of fodder. What was more terrifying was that there would be no war horses left in the army. Emperor. Zhang Sun hesitated for a moment. Li Shimin frowned. "Speak." Tubo and Tuyuhun sent news that in 5 days, the first batch of livestock will be delivered to the Tang dynasty from Hezhou, Yazhou, and other places in Jiannan province. There will also be some in Longyu province. But the current situation. How much? Li Shimin had a headache. He had thought of everything, but everyone ignored that the locusts had not only gnawed away the Zhuang family, but also the grass and leaves. The livestock were easy to get, but how could they be raised? They couldn't let the grass-eating animals eat locusts, could they? At this time, Xiao Gizi took a memorial from Zhangsun Wuji and handed it to Li Shimin. Tuyuhun will deliver 58,300 war horses, 37,000 cows, 59,000 bulls, 30,000 calves, 39,000 sheep, and pigs, chickens, ducks. Looking at the numbers one by one, Li Shimin felt a headache. This, without a doubt, was another source of pressure. They couldn't drive all the livestock to the south, could they? Dear ministers, do you have any good ideas about this? Li Shimin rubbed his forehead and said, This. At this time, Your Majesty, I suggest that we don't accept these livestock for the time being. Otherwise, it will undoubtedly make the situation worse. Your Majesty, the sudden increase in cattle, sheep, pigs, chickens, and ducks is still fine. We can just distribute them to the local people, but the horses? Your Majesty, I mean that if these livestock come from Jiannan province, it's better to send them directly to the south. Now the south is less affected by the locust plague. As for the livestock in Longyu province, let Longyu know how to raise them properly for the time being. When the time comes, we can collect a batch of fodder from the south to solve the problem. The ministers expressed their opinions one after another. At this time, no one sang a different tune. Because what did this mean? This represented the benefits they could gain. Moreover, they occupied a lot of fields in various places, and there must be a lot of fodder stored here. At this time, if these things were left behind, they would be the ones to benefit in the end. There were no fools here. Every single one of them was very clear. The benefits of this. After discussing for an hour, Li Shimin still couldn't find a suitable solution. Suddenly, he thought of a person in his mind. Perhaps that person would be able to resolve this matter perfectly. He also knew the benefits of this matter. If he did as these people said, wouldn't he get no benefits at all? Alright, I already have a countermeasure for this matter. By the way, I have something to announce today. Li Shimin waved his hand. The ministers quieted down in an instant. Li Shimin said slowly, The order of the imperial court has been following the old system of the previous dynasty since the reign of the retired emperor, and there has been no change. Therefore, I want to announce today that I will make a slight correction to the original system. Chapter 380. Everyone was aghast. Although the improvement of the system was indeed coordinated by the emperor, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Personnel, and other departments, why did it happen today? And why didn't they hear anything about it before? What did it mean? Could it be that this was one of the emperor's methods after he decided to take sides against the locust plague? Everyone was smart enough to know something. They had thought about the reform a long time ago, but they didn't expect it to happen today. Du Ruhui, tell us about the relevant system. After all, it was you and Zhang Sun who made the decision together. Yes. Zhang Sun was confused. What does it have to do with me? But it was obvious that the emperor was dragging him down, so he could only bow his hands and say yes. Then, Zhang Sun Wuji spoke first. Your Majesty, although the system in the imperial court has always been perfect, this old official feels that there are still many flaws in it. Therefore, this old official worked with the Ministry of Personnel to perfect it. Official Du, please come and explain the relevant situation on behalf of the emperor and the other officials. Zhang Sun Wuji kicked the problem to Du Ruhui again. Du Ruhui leisurely took out a memorial from his bosom and said, In view of the fact that there are many idle positions in the treasury of Chang'an, and city and other affairs, or many of them are directly related to each other, but no one is in charge of them. At this time, the Tang Empire is just starting to develop in all aspects. Therefore, His Majesty has discussed this matter with me and others and deliberated about it. First, there are too many idle positions, which leads to delays in the daily affairs of the government in various departments, especially in the case of the Chang'an and local treasury last time. It was a small matter, but it delayed for half a year. What if it was in other places? So, in order to improve the system in the court, we made a series of system updates. Second, there are many things waiting to be done in the Tang dynasty. Look at the emperor's boots. They are all sewn by Empress Zhang Sun. Why? Does the emperor lack money for a pair of boots? No. He was trying to save money. Moreover, the amount of money spent every month on idle jobs in the imperial court is thousands of strings of cash. If this kind of practice continues and everyone is like this, then who will carry out the government affairs? That's why I, the emperor, and Lord Zhang Sun, the minister of the Ministry of Justice, worked together to update the court system. After saying that, only then did Du Ruhui recite the reward and punishment system that he had previously set up in the imperial court. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one was a fool. This was definitely something Du Ruhui would do. But what was the meaning of this Du Ruhui? Do you think everyone is too idle right now? Wasn't this forcing them to their deaths? Everyone was shocked. But when she took a closer look, the emperor was indeed wearing the shoes sewn by Empress Zhongsun. Even the dragon robe on his body showed signs of being mended. How could this be fake? At this time, if anyone dared to say no, they would be punished. Then, if the emperor took off the mending on his clothes, who would say anything? Although everyone was dissatisfied, they didn't dare to say anything now. This was a typical case of giving a sweet date, and then giving a heavy blow. Who dared to say anything? Li Shimin carefully observed everyone's expressions and then said slowly, I know that once new things are introduced, many people will definitely feel that it is not good. Today in the imperial court, if we feel that something is not good, we will solve it in court, okay? If anyone has a different opinion, you can raise it. But who dared to say anything? At this time, even if they were dissatisfied, they would have to wait until later. But at this time, however, Wei Jing spoke up. Your Majesty, I have something to ask. Speak. Your Majesty, I am slow-witted. I don't know what the reward and punishment system means. Li Shimin touched his chin and said, Mr. Du, tell Prime Minister Wei. Yes, Your Majesty. Prime Minister Wei, to put it bluntly, this is no different from the previous system. However, just like how we handle government affairs every day, if everyone registers their names as if they are attending morning court, then it will be clear at a glance who is here and who is not. Moreover, after being sent back to the Supreme Court for sorting, it will become a record. The advantage of this is that Your Majesty will know at any time who is on duty, what they are doing, who is not coming, and what they are doing. In this way, it can ensure that every order from Your Majesty will be delivered to the officials on time. With several people echoing each other, everyone finally understood. This thing was actually a test. Although the emperor added rewards and punishments, if one did not show up for duty without a reason, he would be fined 1 month of salary. If it was the 4th time, he would be directly demoted by 1 rank. Wasn't this too strict? But what about the rewards? If one signed in every month, he would get an extra half a month of salary. What the hell was this? If one could be on duty every month, he would get bonus points on his political achievements. If there was a fat job, he would be given priority. What the hell was this? Wasn't this too much of a scam? At this time, everyone only felt the pressure. If they were to be like before, they would go drinking after a fight. Those days were gone forever. Now in everyone's position who didn't have bloodshot eyes. Once such a thing happened, the fine was a small matter. Losing their job was the real deal. Especially if there was a fat job. Where would this fat job come from? Wasn't it the position of everyone? Didn't this mean that now everyone's buttocks were sitting on the edge of a knife? Once they didn't pay attention, they would be finished? Everyone cried in their hearts. But who dared to say anything? They could only grit their teeth and accept it. Chapter 381. Thus, the court session ended in a dull manner. Although the court session was over, the problem was still in front of Li Shimin. That was the matter of animal husbandry. If this matter was not handled well, not only would all the animals and horses of the Tang dynasty be destroyed because of this matter. What would happen if a war broke out at that time? The Tang dynasty would no longer have a warhorse to use. There would be no cavalry to contend with the Turks. Imperial study. Li Shimin looked at the barren land outside the window with a worried face. It was supposed to be midsummer, but now? There was nothing but dead branches and leaves. Second brother, are you worried about the locusts again? Zhongsun Wugo fanned Li Shimin from behind and asked. Sigh. Guanyin maid, tell me. Now, although the matter of these damned locusts is basically solved and we have food, we forgot to store the fodder. This. Who would have thought that this plague of locusts would be so serious? And that brother Zhongfeng is really too much. He didn't explain the matter clearly. Don't say that, Guanyin maid. Li Shimin shook his head and grabbed Zhongsun Wugo's slender hand. At that time, brother Zhongfeng did say it, but we underestimated this plague of locusts too much, so we were indecisive. Back then, if I had listened to him and gathered all the chickens, ducks and pigs, and place them in Longyu. Then the problem right now would absolutely not be so serious. Right now, even if I wanted to gather chickens and ducks on a large scale, it would be very difficult. Zhang Sun Wugo pouted and said, "Then why didn't you only ask for chickens and ducks when you confronted Tubo and the other countries last time? Pigs. Do you think they are stupid?" Li Shim and Wugo tapped Zhang Sun Wugo's forehead. At that time, if we had made a wrong expression, we might have failed last time, let alone asking for chickens, ducks, and pigs. Once we said that, believe it or not, they would definitely not give us one. And they will be able to come up with a solution to the locust plague in a short time. Zhang Sun Wugo bit her lips and thought for a while. She couldn't help but exclaim, "Second brother, you mean to borrow a chicken to lay eggs? Use their chickens, ducks, and pigs to deal with the locusts in the Tang dynasty, and then send the news back to them. Then we can openly use this matter too." Yes. Li Shimin nodded approvingly. But the key problem now is that no one knows how long this plague of locusts will last, not to mention next year's plague. Once that happens, then, Your Majesty, Prime Minister Wei requests an audience. At this moment, little Gizi's voice hurriedly sounded outside the imperial study. Li Shimin frowned slightly. "Declare." Zhang Sun Wugo struggled free from Li Shimin's hands. "Then I'll take my leave first." As they spoke, Zhang Sun and Wugo left when Wei Zheng and the others entered the imperial study. "Your subjects pay respects to Your Majesty." "Get up," Li Shimin said sleepily. "What's the matter?" "Your Majesty, we are here for the livestock matter. This matter is far more serious than what Lord Lu said in today's morning court. Just now we personally sent people to Chang'an City to take a look outside Chang'an City. The area around Longsho Mountain and Shirley Slope outside Chang'an City were originally lush and green, but now, apart from bare tree trunks and rotten leaves, there is nothing else. And all the cattle and sheep are so hungry that they are only skin and bones. If we don't deal with them, then have you come up with any ideas?" Li Shimin interrupted Wei Zheng and the others and asked. Wei Zheng hesitated. "Now there are only two ways. One is to immediately start the operation to eliminate the locusts, and then gather all the cattle and sheep to the south. Then send people 800 miles away, and let the prefectures in the south immediately transfer the hay." Cheng Yaojin sighed with a bitter face and said, "The livestock of the people outside Chang'an City are already like this. Your Majesty, the situation in the military camp is even worse." "Then what do you want me to do? Do you want me to let the grass rain from the sky?" Li Shimin was angry. He waved his hand lightly. "Immediately distribute a large batch of bone-strengthening powder, and let people spread the news within 3 days. At the same time, be sure to let all the royal businesses and the industries of the courtiers start to gather and purchase locusts. Then, let the local soldiers cooperate with the local government office to start the three-pronged control of the plague of locusts, according to the previous method." Li Shimin was annoyed. But at this time, the matter could not be delayed. If it was delayed, it would only make the people more panicky. Only by diverting the people's attention and making them focus on one place could this plague of locusts not go wrong. "By the way, Cheng Yaojin, what about the matter I ordered you to investigate?" Cheng Yaojin hurriedly said. "There is indeed a plague of locusts in the Turkic territory, and it is extremely disastrous. It seems that all the tribes are annexing and robbing each other of their resources. Have you found out that they have dealings with Tubo and other countries?" "Not yet." Li Shimin frowned and thought for a while. "Then, have you spread the news to the Turkic people?" "Yes, I have." "Good. Then for now, put everything aside, and be sure to focus all your energy on the Turkic people. If there is any movement in the Turkic people, report it immediately." "As you wish." Chapter 382. Following Li Shimin's order. In Chang'an City, under this order, in all the hidden corners, it was either the talkative woman, the idle beggar, the wanderer, the street wanderer, or even the storyteller and the fake Taoist priest who read palms. At this moment, all of them entered a secret chamber in a corner, where no one was around. In the secret room, Fang Yi looked at them coldly. The moment they entered the room, they were no longer the same as they were outside. Everyone had a general name. That was the Department of Foreign Affairs of the Ministry of Justice. Greetings, Minister. Get up. Feng Yai said lightly. There's a new task today. It's a secret order from the Emperor. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly knelt on the ground respectfully. There's only one thing today, and that is, no matter what method you use, you must spread the news that the locusts are the bone-strengthening powder throughout Chang'an. And within 3 days. If anyone doubts or creates rumors, immediately lock down this person, trace all the information of this person, and then report back to me as usual. Yes. Minister, are these locusts really the raw material of the bone-strengthening powder? A man who looked like an old Taoist asked out of turn. A flash of impatience flashed across Wei Shiyu's face. Think more about the locust's eggs. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Yes. Hearing this, the old Taoist broke out in a cold sweat all over. Seeing that Wei Shiyu didn't say anything else, they hurriedly left the room. Only then did everyone heave a deep sigh of relief. They didn't communicate at all. Then, like strangers, they hurriedly converged into the streets and disappeared into the crowd. The next moment, in Chang'an City, a shocking news spread like wildfire. In the treasury, someone mistakenly mistook the bone-strengthening powder for porridge at the place where the disaster relief is distributed. As soon as the news came out, everyone was shocked. They all rushed into the treasury. Even those who were hiding at home and didn't dare to go out hurriedly took things like dustpans and hurriedly went out after hearing this. Not for anything else, but because this thing was said to be a good thing that could strengthen the yang and kidney, and also make people immune to all kinds of diseases. What did all the people want? Wasn't it just to hope that there would be no illness or disaster? Furthermore, this item was an auspicious item bestowed by the heavens. For such a beautiful item to unexpectedly flow out of the treasury, how could this not be a pleasant surprise? Quick! Let's go to the treasury. Something happened to the treasury. Isn't the granary in the treasury opening to release grain? Someone is selling 3 bags of bone-strengthening powder mixed in grain as flour. What? There's such a good thing. Let's go and take a look. The news spread faster and faster. In less than an hour, all the people in Chang'an City knew about it. In the end, even Zhang Feng heard about it. The old scholar looked at Zhang Feng strangely and asked, Fengzi, tell me honestly, where did you get the bone-strengthening powder you gave me before? Old man may be old, but he still has a brain. At this time, the news of the bone-strengthening powder had just come out from the treasury, and you had already gotten it 3 days ago. Could it be that you were the one who made this thing up? You and the emperor. Sure. Zhang Feng put a finger to his lips and gestured for him to keep quiet. He was not afraid of anything except for this old guy's wild guess. This guy had seen the world, so he could fool other people, but he could not fool the old scholar. Old scholar, you actually know about this matter. Don't I know those stubborn guys before? Didn't you tell me to stay away from them? Zhang Feng spread his hands. That's a little difficult. Although these guys are sloppy all day, their nature is not bad. Moreover, these guys' fathers know me, and we even call each other brothers. They are businessmen, so which one of them doesn't know the officials? So I'm lazy, so I cooperated with them on this business. Hey! The old scholar was furious. You prodigal son. Do you know that this bone-strengthening powder is a chance for your Zhang clan to rise again in at most 1 year? Don't you want to contribute this thing to the emperor? Maybe the emperor will be happy and give you an official position. At that time, won't you be able to bring honor to your family? You wastrel. Old man is so angry. The old scholar was so angry that his beard was trembling. He had eaten 3 kilograms of this bone-strengthening powder. He believed that in Chang'an City, apart from himself, Granny Wang, Zhang Feng's future father-in-law, and the neighbors, they were the first to enjoy such a good thing. This thing could make one rich overnight. You wastrel. How could you give it to others just like that? Isn't it better to ask your father-in-law? Everyone knows the principle of keeping the goodies within the family. You idiot, don't you understand this principle? The old scholar was so angry. He wanted to slap this wastrel to death. But now that he had given it to him, what else could he say? Zhang Feng was also listless. Being pointed at by the old scholar and yelled at, he was also a bit annoyed. But he was afraid that if he told the old scholar about his plan, his heart would explode and he would die on the spot. So he gritted his teeth and endured it. Old Xiaozai, there are some things that are not what you think. This business is easy, but if you don't know how to operate it, you will only bring death to yourself. So you don't have to worry about this matter. Chapter 383. The old elementary scholar was stubborn. He had been stubborn his whole life. In Zhang Feng's heart he had the same strength of character as Tao Yuanming, but he Zhang Feng could not do the same. In this world, he only knew that too much strength was easy to break. He had indeed thought of monopolizing this business, but if that happened, he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. In the face of such huge profits, many people would take risks out of desperation. Even though it would attract the attention of the emperor, at that time, it would arouse killing intent and jealousy. He could not understand the emperor's intentions. Because, what he could think of, the emperor could also think of. If that happened therefore, Zhang Feng did not dare to take the risk. He could not afford to take the risk. Old Xiaozai, I know what you mean, but the raw materials for this thing are things that ordinary people like us can't get our hands on. They are all controlled by the government. If you don't have a good relationship with the government, then you won't even know how you died. Don't talk about making money. This is equivalent to throwing away your life. I know the benefits of this thing, no one knows it better than me, but this is something we cannot be greedy for. Once we are greedy, then when the time comes, we will not be able to repay our debts. Look at me now. I don't have to worry about anything now. And when the time comes, I will be able to sit back and reap the benefits. Who can compare to such a good thing? That's why, old elementary scholar, the world has changed. There are some things that can't be measured by common sense or the things in books. Zhang Feng poured a bowl of wine for the old elementary scholar. The old elementary scholar did not drink. Instead, he stood up woodenly, his mouth mumbling something. He slowly walked away. Zhang Feng knew that what he said was a huge blow to the old elementary scholar, who worshipped the sages and the teachings of Confucius and Mencius. But in this life, he had lived in the proud bones of the books. How could the emperor not know of his existence? The emperor did not say anything because he did not want to argue with an old man. But once he entered the imperial court one day, then the old elementary scholar's character would change. Then at that time, not only would the old elementary scholar be unlucky, but he would also be unlucky. Therefore, Zhang Feng might as well at this time unravel this layer of confusion for the old elementary scholar. Let him see this reality clearly. Just as the old scholar was about to leave, Chang'an city was also in chaos. The cause of the incident was a shocking piece of news that came from a tea house in Shi City. Blind Wang was still sitting steadily in his exclusive seat. Everyone in the tea house stared at him as he slowly sipped his tea. Some of the more impatient ones were already clenching their teacups tightly. Just as everyone was about to lose their patience, Blind Wang slammed his gavel and said, "Everyone listen up. Today, our Blind Wang will not be long-winded. Let's talk about the bone-strengthening powder that came out of the vault." When the crowd saw Blind Wang going straight to the point, they couldn't help but get excited. "Blind Wang, tell me, what's the deal with this bone-strengthening powder? I saw Kong Dingfang's Zheng Tufu. A few days ago he was still using crutches, but yesterday I heard that he made some bone-strengthening powder and ate a big bowl of it. This morning he actually threw away his crutches. Is this true? Is the bone-strengthening powder really that magical? That Zheng Tufu is already 83 years old this year. But this morning he's even more energetic than us young men. He can even carry a bucket of water and show off in Chang'an city. Is this the effect of that bowl of bone-strengthening powder? God. Is this true? Does that bone-strengthening powder really have the effect of rejuvenating one's youth?" The crowd was in an uproar. Blind Wang smiled and stroked his beard, nodding from time to time. When the crowd was arguing, Blind Wang said slowly, "Everyone, that bone-strengthening powder doesn't have the effect of rejuvenating one's youth. I've already said this before. The reason is that this bone-strengthening powder, as the name suggests, is really something. Think about it. Why is it called bone-strengthening powder? Why?" The crowd stared with their eyes wide open. Because this thing is originally used to strengthen the bones. It's used to strengthen the muscles and bones. That Zheng Tufu grew up with us in the early years. Don't you think that old man doesn't know him? He's as strong as a bull. When he's old, his body will be weak. But once he's nourished by this thing, although he can't be compared to a young man, he's still much stronger than us. So don't believe the rumors. This bone-strengthening powder. Blind Wang, you're really talking nonsense. At this moment, someone on the third floor, which belonged to the rich and powerful, said contemptuously, instantly interrupting the crowd. The middle-aged man slowly waved his folding fan and said, I've heard rumors from the imperial physicians that this thing can strengthen the muscles and bones. It can also nourish the yin and yang. Most importantly, it can nourish the kidneys and strengthen the yang. You all know my father, right? Minister Zhua of the Guanglu Temple. When the crowd heard this, they couldn't help but stare. This was a master. And he knew something that the crowd didn't know. If he could stand up and speak, it meant that this matter was in the bag. Nourishing the yin and yang, it could also strengthen the bones and the kidneys. Most importantly, it could strengthen the yang. At this moment, the man glanced at Blind Wang from the corner of his eye and nodded. Did you all know? My father took in a concubine yesterday. And it's that coquettish Hu lady. My father is already 75 years old. What? Minister Zhua Chao took in a concubine? Damn. This Minister Zhua, is what you said true? This thing is really so magical? Chapter 384. No, this young master is also using this thing, and it's not just me. All of the officials in the court are using it. As for the effect, I used to do it 3 times a night, but after eating this thing, I can do it 5 times a night without blushing or panting. This is a must for a man. Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. That worked. All the nobles in the court were using it. Everyone went crazy. Many of them could not even sit still. It was crazy. They ran away like crazy. They only had one goal. That was to go to the treasury. Even if they had to spend all their money, they had to buy some. This thing. If there was only this little, even if they did not use it, the price would definitely be the same as the locust's eggs. The price would increase by several times. This was the people of Guangzhou. They were all shrewd in their bones. Once they heard that all the nobles in the court were using it, how could it be wrong? Regardless of whether it was good or bad, they had to get it first. When the people arrived at the treasury without stopping, they were so scared that their legs went soft when they saw the people at the entrance of the treasury. They saw that almost all the people of Chang'an city had arrived at the entrance of the treasury. And at the entrance of the treasury, there was a sold-out sign. This time, all the people who had just arrived were in an uproar. F***CK, what's going on? It's gone? F***CK, what's going on? No. Since there are 3 sacks in the treasury, it means that he has a lot of this thing. That's right. When everyone heard that, their eyes could not help but light up. Could it be that the treasury wants to fill their own pockets and not sell it to us? F***CK. Is there still law? Is there still law? No. Boys, let's turn his stall upside down. I don't believe that he and the person in charge of the treasury won't come out and give us an explanation. Yes. F***CK. These cowards think that we can just hang a broken sign and be done with it? Come. Let them see how powerful the people of Guangzhou are. The people at the treasury were also anxious. Why did the acting suddenly change? The manager of the treasury hurriedly sent someone to the palace to inquire. Under the strong pressure, the manager of the treasury gritted his teeth and took out a sack of bone-strengthening powder. He divided it into countless small porcelain bottles and then slowly said, "Everyone, silence. This official knows that all of you want to buy this thing. But this thing is really gone, and there is no such thing in the palace now. This is the last bit that I asked someone to bring out from the palace. Therefore, I had no choice but to do this. After all, the cost of this thing is also there. This kind of divine item can't be as ordinary as that, right?" However, no matter what he said about having a battle of words, that was all he said. Was that all? It would be strange if they weren't fools. "Milord, you said that this is a divine item, and we can't be picky about that. But you're being unfair. Since you're doing business with us, are you looking down on us because we have less money?" "That's right, my lord. Look at the people in front. They've already bought so much. Why are there only a few bottles and jars left? What's the use of this little bit? Milord, are you selling this thing? Or giving it away? Are you still selling it in the future?" "That's right, my lord. You can't be playing dumb with us. How can you act like a little wife when you're doing business with us? Aren't you ashamed?" The manager of the treasury panicked. He was sweating profusely. But what could he do? Although the higher-ups said that no matter what happened, he had to forcibly suppress it. After today, everything would be solved. But how could he suppress this situation? He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to survive tonight. These people would tear him apart alive. Even his family's aunts and uncles would have to have their legs broken by him. He couldn't help but wipe the sweat on his forehead and said, "Everyone, I'm just a gatekeeper. This bone-strengthening powder, if you don't believe me, you can go into the treasury and look for it yourself. As long as you can find it, I'll give it to you as much as you can find. Is that okay? There's really no more. If there was, why would I be so stingy?" Everyone in the treasury was having a headache now. They had originally planned to keep a bag of it. This thing was a great tonic. When the time came, they could bring some back for their parents, wives, and children to eat together. Wouldn't that be great? But now? It depended on the situation. If they didn't clear up this matter today, they would die when they went back tonight. What should they do now? Everyone was worried. And those commoners naturally didn't believe the words of the manager of the treasury. Since he had let them in, if they didn't go in, wouldn't they be letting him down? "Brothers, let's go." "No one's going in. Let's go in and see if this Wang Quanan is telling the truth." In the crowd, an old man raised his walking stick shakily and rushed forward angrily. When the manager of the treasury named Wang Quanan saw the old man, he instantly withered. He cried miserably and shouted, "Father-in-law, your son-in-law is on duty, you scram. You wastrel." The old man was fine if he didn't listen, but when he heard, he exploded in anger. He raised his walking stick and gave him a beating. "This is such a good thing. Why don't you buy some for your father? Are you still my son-in-law? I'll beat you to death, you wastrel." Chapter 385. Reporting. "Your Majesty, the Treasury reports that it can't hold on any longer." "Wait. This matter must be suppressed. Then should we mobilize another batch of bone-strengthening powder?" "It doesn't matter." Li Shimin faintly flipped through the division table in his hand, looking at it with great interest. On the other hand, Feng Xianling was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. Chang'an was going to be in chaos, and he still had the mood to relax. However, he could only clench his teeth and hurriedly leave. However, the moment he went out, he saw that Zhang Sun Wuji was also holding on to his stomach, panting as he ran over. "Your Majesty, now the locusts in the palace are almost used up, and the Chang'an garrison is basically rushing to roast the locusts secretly collected. Now there are only 300 stones of bone-strengthening powder in the warehouse. So little." Li Shimin frowned slightly. "That's not bad, Your Majesty. Do you know that if there's even the slightest sign of this thing, the people in Chang'an will rush to buy it like crazy? At this time, should we ask someone to start the purchase of locusts? If it starts today, it's bound to expand the bone-strengthening powder industry in a short time. If it's delayed, perhaps, in less than 3 days Chang'an will be in chaos." Zhang Sun Wuji said the good news. Just now, Zhang Sun Wuji said the news from the military camp outside the city. Although the group of civil officials were usually careless, now that they were in the court, which one of them was obedient? The housekeepers of each family wantonly caught locusts on the pretext of going out of the city to look for grass and fodder. They even hired people to catch locusts at a low price. Once the matter in their own fields was finished, they went out of the city to catch locusts. Once this matter spread out, there would be smart people who would smell the business opportunity in less than a day. After Zhang Sun Wuji reported the speculation in his heart, Li Shimin fell silent. It seemed that if something didn't come out now, There would be chaos. However, this was what Li Shimin wanted. Li Shimin closed the division table in his hand and rhythmically tapped on the table with his fingers. Wait a little longer. Put the matter of the bone-strengthening powder aside for now. Send out all the people from the Ministry of Justice and keep a close eye on Chang'an. Also, Li Shimin pondered for a moment before he said, immediately send a message and have people spread the news that I want to buy insects. Also spread the news that locusts aren't pests. Right, Zhang-sun, about the locusts being bone-strengthening powder. How's your arrangement going? Replying to your majesty, I haven't told anyone yet. Once this matter is revealed, the secret of the bone-strengthening powder will no longer be a secret. That's why I didn't tell anyone about this. Good. Then don't tell anyone about this. If anyone does, they'll be beheaded. Zhang-sun Wuji instantly understood what the emperor meant. He cupped his fists and left. An hour later, a rumor suddenly spread in Chang'an City. His Majesty empathizes with the common people and is willing to open the national treasury and take out the silver to cure the plague of locusts. 1 stone locust in exchange for buy 1 qian. As soon as these two pieces of news came out, it instantly overshadowed the matter of the bone-strengthening powder. After all, although the bone-strengthening powder was good, it was scarce. Now, everyone relied on the heavens to make a living. These damned locusts had eaten up all the food they needed to feed their families. At this time, not to mention money, as long as they were given a bowl of porridge, the common people would be very willing to eliminate the locusts. After all, the emperor did this out of consideration for the common people. Now, if anyone dared to sit on the ground and take a nap, they would be instantly drowned by the saliva of the locusts. You're shameless. Now that the Tang dynasty is in danger, the emperor doesn't want anything and is freely giving out money just to eliminate the locusts and earn a living for us. Are king better off than the emperor? The men in Guangzhou are really brave. Who can withstand this kind of provocation? After a while, all the common people with red eyes held carrying poles, hammers, and even dustpans. Moreover, there were old men who used bamboo strips to weave a circle and weaved spider webs from the corner of the house. Then they stuck or tied the webs to a long bamboo pole or a long stick and set off. Needless to say, this method was really useful. As long as the webs were waved, they would be instantly covered in them. They would knock against the bucket and fall down. This was something that the emperor wanted, so no one dared to be careless. If a locust or grasshopper got dirty, they would wipe it with their clothes. If anyone dared to be unclean, they would be stained with spider webs, and they would instantly be covered with spittle that should cover the ground. Just like that. From the common people to the servants of the rich families, and then to the rich families, no one could sit still. Although everyone kept saying that they didn't want money, when their chests were bulging with copper coins or silver notes, everyone was laughing so hard that they couldn't even see their eyes. How could those merchants who had been locked in their houses by the locusts sit still? They were bare-chested and wearing their hair. They chanted songs and struck gongs in their yards, fields, and even on the streets of Chang'an. Some rich people even took out nets used for fishing. Each of them held one end of the nets, and then rode on the mules to run wildly in Chang'an. When the crowd saw this, they were instantly stunned by the locusts that weighed hundreds or even thousands of pounds. They also learned to run home after throwing away their things. No net? What's the use of the mosquito net? If it doesn't work, we can tie the pipes together with ropes and tie them to the bamboo poles. Won't that make a net? Now, after seeing what the emperor did, those officials couldn't sit still. They shouted with red eyes. Come on. Look at the people of Chang, and who are so enthusiastic about catching locusts. Aren't you ashamed? Come on. Enclose this place for me. This place belongs to our mansion. Come on. Since Lord Zhang dares to enclose this place, let's do it too. The locusts on this hill belong to me. At this moment, Cheng Yaojin's wife leisurely carried a basket and stared at the crowd and shouted. In an instant, all the officials touched their noses and left as if they had said nothing. They dared to scold Cheng Yaojin, but they didn't dare to provoke this shrew. Chapter 386. On Long's-Ho Mountain outside Chang'an City, Li Chengqian rode a white horse and stood at the top of the mountain. He looked down at the sea of people and sighed with emotion. No one in the world dared to disobey an order. This was the demeanor an emperor should have. This was his father's way of doing things. Since he had been in contact with Zhang Feng for a long time, he could see the unfathomable abyss in Zhang Feng. He had a feeling that if Zhang Feng really taught them the skills he once said, what would the Tang dynasty be like at that time? He didn't dare to think about it. From everything that happened now, he saw a feeling that made it difficult for him to sleep. Especially the mental arithmetic, as well as the mysterious division, as well as the mysterious sutra that he had never mentioned, as well as the physics and so on. Although he didn't know what it was, Li Chengqian understood that it wasn't that Zhang Feng didn't want to teach it, nor that his father didn't want to learn it, but that his father thought they were old. On the other hand, they weren't qualified now. In other words, they weren't qualified. This feeling was very strange and uncomfortable. However, during this period of time, Li Chengqian understood the profoundness of the division. Even Master Yuan Tiangang couldn't completely recite the division within 10 after seeing it. Li Chengqian could recite it now. How could this not make him feel complacent? Even this morning, he went to show off in front of his father and mother. After hearing the division within 10 digits from his father, he was terrified. He finally knew the gap between them. Chengqian, isn't it time to light the beacon? Just as Li Chengqian was letting his imagination run wild, Cheng Chimo looked at a small yellow door rushing over and asked. He only showed it to Li Chengqian. When Li Chengqian saw the small yellow door rushing over on the mountain path, he waved his hand lightly. Light the beacon. After receiving the order, Cheng Chimo waved his hand in a very flirtatious manner. Light the beacon. Light the beacon. Prepare the herbs. Quickly check the herbs and fodder. Are you all deaf? Get moving for Lao Tzu. Quick, quick, quick. Who the hell are you? What the hell do you want to do? Get out of the beacon tower for Lao Tzu. Is it cool there? Amidst the clamor of preparation and angry shouts, all the beacon towers were ready, and there was even a group of soldiers with torches in their hands, waiting in front of the beacon towers. At this moment, the small yellow door finally arrived at the peak of the mountain. As soon as he reached the top of the mountain, he hurriedly shouted, "The Emperor has given the order. When the bell rings, light the beacons." Thump, thump, thump. Just as the yellow door's voice faded away, the bell of the Huaxing temple rang. Li Chengqian took a deep breath and urged his horse forward. He took the torch from Cheng Chimo's hand, then raised it high and shouted, "Today, the beacons are not because of an emergency military situation, but because it concerns the survival of all the people of the Tang dynasty. You all saw the fodder. It's not smoke, but the herbs we've all seen before. Do you know what we're doing? Kill the locusts. Kill the locusts. Kill the locusts." All the soldiers raised their torches, weapons, and even flags and roared. Most of them were the people around Chang'an City, and many of them were even from Chang'an City. When the locust plague broke out, everyone was tortured and exhausted. Everyone had encountered the plague of locusts, and no one dared to experience that kind of horror again. But now, the emperor actually contacted the heavens and got the prescription to kill the locusts. What was this? This was for the benefit of the people. Who dared not to do it? So, at this moment, all the soldiers roared excitedly. At this moment, the bell slowly rang for the 9th time. Dong. The moment the bell rang, a voice rang out. Li Chengqian raised the torch high and pulled the reins. The white horse seemed to feel something, and raised its front hooves and neighed. "Light the fire," Li Chengqian ordered. The torch in his hand was thrown fiercely into the tung oil that had been poured on the beacon tower. Buzz. Dozens of torches were thrown out at the same time. The 5 beacon towers on Long's-Ho Mountain were lit in an instant. The raging gray smoke was blown slowly in the direction of Chang'an City with the wind. At this moment, Yuchi Baolin, who had been waiting on the beacon tower of the imperial city, saw the first beacon on Long's-Ho Mountain, and suddenly pulled out his sword and roared, "Sound the drums, light the fire!" Dong! Woo! 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 Along with the sound of the drums, the horn to charge was also blown. At this moment, The 24 beacon towers above the imperial city lit up the beacon fire at the same time. And the people inside and outside Chang'an city all stopped at this moment. Everyone stared blankly at the thick smoke in the sky. They had already seen this on the notice. But they didn't expect that the emperor would be so generous this time. Even when Xieli came, he didn't light up the beacon fire like this, and didn't ring the bell 9 times. But now the emperor actually rang the bell 9 times in order to kill the locusts. What was this? Everyone choked with sobs. They all looked at the direction of the imperial city with red eyes, and knelt down and shouted themselves hoarse. Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Chapter 387. Zhang Feng looked up at the smoke floating in the sky. He could smell the strong smell of medicinal herbs in the air. He could not help but breathe a deep sigh of relief. This thing was really created. He did not know what skills Lao Li and the others had used, or was it the research of the emperor and Sun Simiao? After all, the Imperial Institute of Medicine of the Tang dynasty was not to be trifled with. There were many capable people, and Sun Simiao was there as well. How could they, who played with medicinal herbs all day long, not know what he knew? Zhang Feng shook his head. He focused on the tricycle in his hand again. The carriage of the tricycle was still made of wooden planks. If it was made of iron, he would need an ox to pull it instead of a bicycle. The carriage was easy to make. The most practical material was cedar wood. It was cheap and light. The tricycle was not complicated. The most complicated part was the tire and the transmission chain. Zhang Feng used 10 days to make the entire transmission system using 5 large and small gears, and a chain as thick as a thumb. He looked at the thick smoke in the sky. He looked at the rain like locusts. Zhang Feng patted the seat of the tricycle, and prepared to take it out for a walk. However, just as he took the tricycle to the street outside the shop, a discordant voice suddenly sounded behind him. Fengzi, what are you tinkering with? The voice naturally belonged to Chengchimo. At this time, Chengchimo, Li Chengqian, and Zhang Sun rushed over with their arms around each other's shoulders. They had just finished controlling the locusts, and they could not sit still anymore. They hurried over to Zhang Feng's place to have a drink. After all, there were too many things to do during this period of time, so they were so busy that they were almost paralyzed. Moreover, Li Chengqian came straight here after coming down from Mount Longzhou. They discussed and formed a team. However, they did not know that Zhang Feng gave them a big surprise as soon as they met. Zhang Feng's face darkened when he heard that. It was impossible to hide the car now. When he turned around, the 3 of them had already surrounded the tricycle. They were touching it here and there. That damn Chengchimo actually lifted it up with one hand and smashed it heavily on the ground. Zhang Feng's eyelids twitched when he saw this. Hey bro, why are you guys here? Hey, wasn't this thing just finished? I haven't tasted your wine for a long time, so I missed it. Zhang Sun said to Chengchimo, who was about to overturn the tricycle. By the way, brother Zhang Feng, what is this? Li Chengqian pointed at the tricycle. Hey, I had nothing to do, so I tinkered with a cart for the past few days. Let's go, this isn't anything good. Tainyo, carry it into the shop. Let's drink. You guys came at the right time. I had nothing to do yesterday, so I went swimming in the river and caught a few carps that weighed 3 catties. Let's go. I'll give you guys an appetizer today. Chengchimo and Zhang Sun looked at Li Chengqian with a strange expression. Li Chengqian, on the other hand, walked in without blushing or panting. Although their father had ordered that no one was allowed to eat carps, who was Zhang Feng? He was their brother. Others couldn't eat carps, but Zhang Feng and his brother could. Not long after, Zhang Feng came out with a plate of pickled fish and a grill with burning charcoal. The grill emitted the spiciness of pepper and dogwood, plus the numbing taste of fresh peppercorns. It instantly filled everyone's mouth. How could they wait? When the dishes were placed on the table, they couldn't wait to dig in. Li Chengqian didn't eat. He pointed at the backyard behind the curtain and said, Brother, what is this? You haven't told me yet. Hey, isn't this the improved hand cart? Look. Zhang Feng took a bite of the fish head and simply hugged the fish head with his hands. He crossed his legs and said, That thing is actually just a handcart. There's nothing much to say. It's just that the oxen, horses, and mules pulling the cart were replaced by manpower. Manpower? In an instant, their interest was aroused. Under Li Chengqian's signal, Cheng Chimo resentfully put down his chopsticks and carried the tricycle into the hall. Seeing this, Zhang Feng also knew that if he didn't explain clearly, these guys wouldn't give up. He simply put down the fish head, sat on the seat, and showed it to everyone in the hall. Everyone's eyes were fixed on it. Let's go, this is a divine tool for showing off. Brother, I didn't expect Feng Zi to be such a stubborn guy in his bones. Ha ha ha, let's go, let's stroll on the street. I guarantee that all the girls and wives in Chang'an city will be charmed. Get lost. Zhang Feng was anxious. This thing is just for transporting goods. What do you mean by a divine tool for showing off? Don't mess around. Lao Tzu spent a lot of money on this thing. No one is allowed to have any ideas about it. As he spoke, Zhang Feng pushed the tricycle to the backyard like it was a treasure. Li Chengqian knocked on the wine bowl. Cheng Chimo and Zhang Sun instantly understood. Didn't you not let us play with it? Is this what brothers are like? When Lao Tzu gets you drunk, you'll be more frivolous than anyone else. Chapter 388. Come. Brother, what are you talking about? We're brothers. Since this is Feng Zi's beloved item, how can we as brothers joke around with our beloved item? Come, I Tainyo, will drink a cup as punishment. I'll also drink a cup as punishment. Li Gan, I was rude, brother. What do you mean by drinking a cup as punishment? We have to take a bowl. Don't you think so, Feng? Zhang Sun winked at him, causing Zhang Feng to have goosebumps all over his body. The three of them changed to wine bowls and gulped down a large bowl of wine. Only then did they pant and grab a handful of fish without using chopsticks and start gorging themselves. Oh right, Feng, are we brothers? He really ate a mouthful. Chen Timiu was unhappy. He looked at Zhang Feng, who was eating the fish eyeballs with disgust. Zhang Feng was stunned. Yes, why? We're brothers. The three of us have already drunk, so why don't you drink? F*CK, you guys are F*King. F*King, didn't you guys want to drink? What does this have to do with me, Zhang Feng? If you want to drink, then drink. Lao Tzu doesn't drink. Zhang Feng turned around angrily. In terms of drinking, he definitely couldn't beat these cowards. These people grew up soaking in wine from a young age. How could they compare to them? They only needed 8 taels of wine to make him drunk. This was a big bowl. A big bowl was already half a caddy. How could he drink it? Moreover, these fools were holding 65% alcohol. He didn't dare to drink it. I thought that Feng really treated us as brothers. It seems that I Chongzi was thinking too much. Isn't that so? To think that we treated him as a brother and secretly went to the imperial plantation to get him a tiger. This is good, this sigh. All right, if you don't want to drink, then don't drink. Let's go, it's too boring to drink. Tainyo, swallow descent restaurant's arrangements? Let's go. As they spoke, the three of them were about to leave. How could Zhang Feng endure such provocation? Isn't it just drinking? Lao Tzu did not believe that Lao Tzu could not risk his life today. Enough. Stop F*King acting. Who do you think you are? Come, let Lao Tzu drink. Whoever doesn't drink it is a bastard. Zhang Feng finally couldn't help but explode. This group of bastards was really F*King infuriating. Not to mention them. Were they F*King going to the heavens? Fine. Since you want to drink, then. Zhang Feng didn't like that the wine jars on the table were all opened, so he directly took out a few jars of good wine from the wine cellar. However, this was something that he had prepared for everyone to drink. He had long known that this group of bastards would come to mess with him. The incident at Swallow Descent restaurant last time had left him with lingering fear. How could he do such a stupid thing again? When Zhang Feng came out of the wine cellar panting, the few of them looked at him with a playful expression. He had done something to these jars of wine. This group of people had learned to be shrewd. They had learned to read the numbers on the jars. This was incredible. How could Zhang Feng do it? This wine was taken out from the wine cellar. Other than himself, no one knew which jars had low alcohol content. I say, brother, this wine of yours. Enough. Do you think I don't know you guys? I just brewed this wine and haven't processed it. Usually, I can't bear to drink it. Today we are going to drink this wine that has just been brewed. All right. Chang'an was overjoyed when he heard this. He hurriedly picked up a jar, opened the mud seal, and took a whiff of the fragrant wine. His entire person changed. When the few of them saw this, how could they still care about their manners? They were all drunkards. There was no need to pretend. Even Li Chengqian put down his identity as the crown prince. Like everyone else, he opened the mud seal and began to taste it. Good wine. Fengzi, you're not being kind. If you had such good wine, why didn't you take it out earlier? Come, come, come. Brothers, let's drink. Wait. However, at this moment, Chang'an smiled and held Zhang Feng's hand, saying, Brother, we're all brothers. Come, come, come. It's not satisfying to drink like this. Come, let's drink. This way, we can drink to our heart's content and increase the relationship between us brothers. How about it? Of course, Zhang Sun and Li Chengqian had nothing to say. They agreed with a clap, but Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. How could he not know what kind of wine this was? The wine that he could drink was definitely the wine from the last dish. It was basically like drinking cold water. The wine that Cheng Tiniu and the others drank was more than 70 degrees. Then it was over now. Zhang Feng regretted it very much. But how could he say anything now? He saw that damn Cheng Tiniu raise his head and gulp down the wine. And it was the kind that didn't let go. He didn't spill a single drop on the ground. This scene made Zhang Feng's eyeballs almost pop out of their sockets. Come, it's your turn. Chang'an handed the jar of wine that originally belonged to Zhang Feng with a playful expression and said, What could Zhang Feng say? He closed his eyes and poured it into his stomach. Come on, I've been tricked. The key was that he couldn't say it. Just like that, a jar of wine, after a round of 4 people, was emptied. This was 2 caddies of wine. On average, each person had half a caddy of wine in their stomach. Even though this was the lowest amount of wine, it still made Zhang Feng a little dizzy. However, the horror was not over. That damn Cheng Tiniu actually picked up the wine jar and drank it again. Brother, come, it's your turn. Chapter 389. What could Zhang Feng say? What could he say when he looked at the 3 pairs of eyes that were rolling around in front of him? Anything he said now would be an excuse. He could only grit his teeth and look at them as if he was going to die for justice. Brothers, let's drink. When the 3 of them saw this, they were overjoyed. They didn't even eat the dishes. Their eyes were wide open, and Zhang Suncheng was even counting with his fingers. Don't ask why. They were all waiting for Zhang Feng to lie down. Zhang Feng couldn't drink. This was something they all knew. Every time they came to drink, getting Zhang Feng drunk was a basic action. If it wasn't Zhang Feng who got drunk that time, but one of them got drunk instead, it would be embarrassing if word got out. All of them had been drinking since young, so they were all veterans in the field of wine. Dong. Pa. The first sound. That was the sound of Zhang Feng falling on the table. The second sound was the sound of the wine jar falling to the ground. Fengzi. Hey. Fengzi, wake up. Your wife is here. Fengzi. Brother Zhang Feng? The 3 of them shook Zhang Feng tentatively. Seeing that Zhang Feng was drunk like a pig, they revealed a deep sense of ecstasy. Done. Tainyo, carry Fengzi to the bed. Chongzi, go take that so-called tricycle out. I want to personally try this treasure. Yes. How could the 2 of them sit still? If it was something that Zhang Feng treasured so much, then it must be a real treasure. Since he didn't want to ride it? Fine. Lao Tzu will get you drunk. If you get drunk, won't what's yours be ours? Hee. The few of them quickly threw Zhang Feng on the bed. Chang'an even smacked Zhang Feng's butt and said, Fengzi, that tricycle of yours, we brothers will help you try it first. As they spoke, the 3 of them ordered their subordinates to squat in front of the door and guard it. Then the 3 of them pushed the cart and slipped away. As soon as he left Tong Huifang, Li Chengqian began to worry. The three of them squatted on the ground, looked at the tricycle and asked, "Bug, do you still remember how Fengzi rode it?" "I seem to remember that Fengzi used his foot to step on this pedal. And then the car moved?" "Chuemo, you're the strongest here. Why don't you try?" "Why me? You do it." Chumo's eyes widened as he stared at this magical thing. He didn't know what to do. "Alright, if Lao Tzu wants to come, Lao Tzu will come." Zhang Sun also got excited and spat into my palm. Then, according to his memory of Zhang Feng, he sat on the tricycle and placed his foot on the pedals. But no matter what he did, the tricycle wouldn't move. This time, a few hundred people were offended. "Chuemo, you mother****, push Lao Tzu. Is this thing broken? Why isn't it moving? Let me try." Chimo carried Zhang Sun and fiercely slapped his butt. Zhang Sun grimaced in pain. "F***ck, you mother****, Lao Tzu asked you to push, not slap. Do you think Lao Tzu is a horse?" Oh. Chimo shrunk his neck and hurriedly pushed the back of the tricycle forward with all his might. Needless to say, this thing really moved. This scene involuntarily caused the three of them to jump up and down in excitement like children. Li Chengqian was also excited. "Bug, quickly step on it." "Yes, quickly step on it. The faster you step on it, the faster it moves." "Wait, you two wait, help me up, I want to sit on it and experience it." "Wait. Mother****, I asked you two to stop." Seeing that he couldn't catch up with Chimo and Zhang Sun, Li Chengqian became angry and directly shouted. Hearing this, the two of them awkwardly turned a corner on the street and stopped next to Li Chengqian. "Sir, please get on the car." Only then did Li Chengqian put on an act of flinging his clothes and sitting in the carriage with a big prick. One person rode, one person pushed, and one person sat. And it was such a strange thing. And it was actually the two devil kings of Chang, and who came in person. This crazy. The people who were catching locusts in Chang and city, as well as those rich people, were dumbfounded. Looking at the strange appearance of the three people, everyone was puzzled. "I say, what's wrong with Devil Chen? Is he drunk?" "Yes. He must be drunk. Otherwise, damn this. Sho, are you crazy? How dare you talk about Devil Chen's ears? Don't you want your legs? F***ck. More importantly, what is that thing they are riding? Have any of you seen it before?" "I don't know. It's probably something good that the people from the Ministry of Works came up with again." The three of them were having fun. Everywhere they passed, everyone retreated. And those who knew the three of them felt as if they had been struck by lightning. Especially when they saw the Crown Prince, everyone's eyes were about to pop out. "Oh my God. This is the Crown Prince?" "Lord Sun, I thought I saw wrong. Didn't the Crown Prince go to Mount Longsho to light the beacon? What's going on?" "I don't know. Forget it, let's report this quickly." At this time Zhang Sun, Li Chengqian, and the other two people were also having fun under the influence of alcohol. Although this thing wasn't as practical as a horse, it wasn't as comfortable as a palanquin, and it required a lot of effort. However, this thing was really cool. Chimo looked at Yanlai restaurant in front of him, pointed and shouted angrily, "Target Yanlai restaurant, let's go." Chapter 390. Chang'an city was very lively that day. Under the effect of the fire beacon, the locusts fell down like rain. Everyone ran out to pick up the locusts, and Yanlai restaurant was no exception, except for the noble singers. The rest, especially the lowly prostitutes, had long been driven out by the madam to make money. It had been almost half a month since the opening of Yanlai restaurant. Yanlai restaurant was extremely poor. This was a good thing that fell from the sky. Not making money now? When would they make money? Moreover, this was clean money. Who would dare to say anything? If that was the case, the procuress or the prostitutes would definitely spray their saliva all over that person's head and face. This was clean money. But at this time, how could the stubborn children of Chang'an city be absent from such a prosperous day? Although they didn't need to work, they could still drink and listen to music in Yanlai restaurant. At the same time, there was also the delicate Hu Ji. Hugging her in their arms was very comfortable. They hadn't been out for a few days, and they had been bored to death. But at this time, cries of surprise rang out in front of Swallow Descent Restaurant's door. All of the stubborn people sitting on the second floor couldn't help but become interested. They all turned their heads to look at Chang'an's main street. Even Jing Shu, who never left her house, was drawn in. On the main street, Cheng Chimo was riding on a strangely shaped thing. As he walked, he excitedly pulled out a large amount of money from his bosom and threw it into the crowd. Although Cheng Chimo, Li Chengqian, and the others had changed their names and even put on some makeup, there were still a few people who recognized them. At this time, the jaws of those who knew them were hanging on the ground, not to mention those who didn't know them. F***CK, what is Demon King Chen doing? Did his father beat him until he went crazy? Sigh. Damn the plague of locusts. At this time, another stubborn child looked up and sighed. This plague of locusts must have made Demon King Chen and Demon King Sun go crazy. Isn't that so? What else could it be? Ladies and gentlemen, do you know what that thing is under their crotch? I don't know, but isn't this thing a little too strenuous? If you have the skill, why don't you ride a horse? At the very least, a sedan chair only costs 10 copper coins. Do you think they don't have that? Crazy. This must be crazy, my God. Everyone couldn't help but wring their hands. However, there were also people who were excited. Everyone had been tortured to the brink of insanity by these 4 demon kings. Now that 2 of them had gone insane, everyone's chance had arrived. In the past, the 4 of them had set a rule. No matter how stubborn one was, no matter what he did, it would be fine. However, if one did something like snatching a girl or bullying the weak with a gun, the 4 of them would make one wish that one was dead. They had also set up a stubborn 10 rules. As long as one was a rich young master in Chang'an city, no matter who one was, they would have to memorize it. Otherwise, they would not even know how they became crippled. Moreover, the relationship between these 4 demon kings seemed to be very strong. Even if someone went to sue them, they would be finished the next day. Especially the one called Du Dabing, he will make you cry. Even if she didn't make you cry, she would drive you crazy. This person's strength was the most terrifying. He was one of the most terrifying people among the 4 demon kings. Continue. I once heard that when he was drunk, he carried a big stick and fought his way into the Zongjing temple. The 3rd leg of the Zongjing temple's supervisor was broken. However, the next day, this bastard could still walk on the street with a swagger. This matter was left unsettled just like that. This time, it was also the battle that made Demon King Chen famous. After this incident, who didn't know the names of the 4 demon kings? As long as they saw him on the street, they would definitely turn around and run away. At this time, looking at Demon King Chen's funny appearance, everyone tried hard to hold back their laughter. Someone couldn't help shouting, "Brother Chen! Brother Sun! What are you doing? Brother Chen, Brother Sun, what are you guys sitting on?" "Yes. 3 masters, your mounts are quite strange. Can you tell us what it is?" Ha ha ha. Everyone didn't know Li Chengqian. Because under normal circumstances, Li Chengqian couldn't casually leave the palace. His identity was there, so very few people knew him. Only occasionally would he come to Yanlai Lu with Cheng Chimo and the others to sit for a while. It was very low-key, so it was normal that no one knew him. Cheng Chimo drove the car to the entrance of Swallow Descent Restaurant in an incomparably flashy manner. Seeing that it was about to crash, Cheng Chimo fiercely pressed down on a metal plate. With a screech, the car skidded through the dirt and came to a steady stop in front of Swallow Descent Restaurant. This is a new thing my brother came up with. Since he has nothing to do, brothers, let's help him try it. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but be surprised. Brother Chen, then this brother of yours. Don't ask what you shouldn't know. Cheng Chimo waved his hand coldly. Only then did the 3 of them enter Yanlai restaurant. At this time, Li Chengqian's walking posture had changed. Most of the places in Chang'an city were paved with bluestone. The bottom of the car was made of hardwood. Although the section in front of Yanlai restaurant was also made of bluestone, because of the flood last year, a lot of mud and sand had been washed up. No one cleaned it up, making it even more cratered. He seriously suspected that his butt had been split in half. But now was not the time to look. Moreover, there were people he knew. He could only endure the pain and wave his folding fan while smiling and cupping his fists at everyone. Chapter 391. The arrival of the three patrons. Instantly, the brothel keeper became excited. She stopped picking up the money on the road. She scolded the crowd. "You bunch of blind B***cheese. Distinguished guests have arrived. What the F***ck are you all doing? Why aren't you greeting the distinguished guests? Men. Serve good tea. Quickly bring out your newly arrived Huji sisters and give them to the three masters. Serve them well." She scolded the crowd. The brothel keeper shook her fat butt and bent over like a dog. She came to Li Chengqian's side and smiled brilliantly. She definitely knew Li Chengqian. Moreover, if she didn't know which family had a rich young master in Chang'an, then she wouldn't be qualified to be a brothel keeper in Yanlai restaurant. "This young master, please take a seat upstairs. Yesterday, 30 Huji came from the western region. Among them, 9 of them are stunning beauties. I've already prepared them for you. Then, I'll have to trouble you." Li Chengqian nodded and went upstairs without even looking back. When Cheng Chimo and Zhang Sun saw Li Chengqian turn around, their eyes immediately turned red. They grabbed the brothel keeper's collar and asked in a low voice, "Are you telling the truth?" The brothel keeper was so scared that her face turned ashen. "Two young dukes, even if we have great abilities, we wouldn't dare to deceive that master. Ha ha. That's good. Come look at the reward. Today this master is happy. All the expenses of Yanlai restaurant will be on me. Continue." Ha ha. Good. Then many thanks to Brother Chun and Brother Sun. Come. Brothel keeper, bring wine. Bring us 2 of those Huji from the western region. We won't forget the reward. Everyone was stubborn, so naturally, those who had too much money had nowhere to spend it. Seeing Cheng Chimo and the others take out gold ingots and throw them away, it was destined that he must have gone crazy from holding back his money. Everyone was excited. In their excitement, they also grabbed a bunch of money and threw it down. Cheng Chimo was indeed going crazy from holding it in. Previously, the procuress had always been on guard against them. But today was different from when Li Chengqian came. Such rare goods were really plentiful. Cheng Chimo and Zhang Sun were overjoyed. They threw out a handful of banknotes from their pockets. The eyes of a certain type of woman turned red. They rushed forward to snatch it. The brothel keeper's hands trembled as she held 2 gold ingots. Her smile was as brilliant as a flower. Second floor. Spring Pavilion. Under the instructions of the procuress and the pimp, in less than 10 minutes, everything looked brand new. Even the teacups and chairs were replaced with new ones. As soon as he entered, he saw 10 pretty ladies standing on both sides of the door. When they saw the 3 of them, they greeted them as young masters. That voice made the 3 of them weak in the knees. "Well, since Brother Chen is treating us today, why don't we let that Jingshu girl play a song?" At this moment, it was unknown which idiot had shouted out loud. In an instant, the entire Swallow Descent restaurant quieted down. Even the procuress's hands trembled, and the 2 gold ingots in her hands fell to the ground. Silence. There was a deathly silence. It was as if someone had pressed the pause button. Everyone stared at the person who just spoke as if they had seen a ghost. That person was also dumbfounded. What's wrong? What's wrong with everyone? Isn't it just letting Jingshu girl play a song? Get lost. Who the hell do you think you are? Are you worthy of letting Jingshu girl play a song? Men drag Lao Tzu out and break his legs. Send him back to his residence and tell his father that I, Chintiniu, and young Masterly said to ask his father if he's worthy. Lao Tzu said before that this Jingshu girl is my brother's wife. I'm sure you all know about Jingshu girl's vow. Damn it, Lao Tzu hasn't come for a few days. Who dares to break Lao Tzu's rules? Procuress, you bastard, get your ass over here. Cheng Chimo exploded in anger. Even Li Chengqian's face was ashen. Although Zhang Feng didn't agree to this Jingshu girl, even Imperial Father had tacitly agreed. She was Zhang Feng's brother's woman, yet he didn't dare to have any ideas. Who the hell dared to be so bold? Moreover, Imperial father had once mentioned this matter at retired emperor's birthday. Among the hundreds of officials who didn't know. Who the hell was this? Who dared to touch his brother's woman? The procuress and the pimp's legs had already turned to jelly. They stumbled and crawled to Li Chengqian, crying to the heavens. That person was also dumbfounded. He was about to question something, but the person beside him whispered something in his ear. He suddenly looked at Li Chengqian with a changed expression. Grand. Young Master Li, this lowly one is drunk. I beg young Master Li to let this lowly one off. Men break his third leg. Send it to his father. Li Chengqian didn't say anything. He directly threw a white jade token to the procuress, then turned and walked into the spring fragrance pavilion. How could the procuress not know what to do when she saw the jade token? At this time, after the person was dragged away by Swallow Descent Tower's hired thugs, he recovered a bit. But at this time, a cold voice came from the attic. May I ask this young master, was that thing at the door made by Prince Zhang? Why didn't Prince Zhang come? Chapter 392. Hearing this, everyone's expression suddenly changed again. Who was Prince Zhang? This, damn it, there didn't seem to be such a stubborn person in Chang'an. And the person who could be remembered by Miss Jingshu, who would be the one who cracked her zither music. Clouds of confusion pressed down on everyone, making it hard for them to breathe. But at this time, everyone knew what was good for them, and did what they should do, regardless of whether they asked or not. What did it have to do with them? Be careful not to lose your life. Seeing Jingshu's question, Li Chengqian was also worried. He used his elbow to touch Zhang Sunchong. Zhang Sunchong was in the meeting. Holding a fist and palm salute, he said, Miss Jingshu, we meet again. That's right, the thing outside is called a three-way carriage. It was created by Prince Zhang recently. He is very busy, but he misses Miss Jingshu every day. Then why didn't he come? Could it be that he dislikes my birth? In the cold voice, Jingshu Chong plucked the zither strings, seeming to be a little annoyed. Zhang Sunchong was not good at speaking seriously, and now he was in a dilemma. Li Chengqian shook his head and said lightly, Miss Jingshu, don't worry. Although everyone in Chang'an knows about your matter now, there are still young talents who are not convinced. I heard that the Dragon Boat Poetry Meet will be held this time. Although it is a little late, it will definitely be held in 3 days. At that time, Brother Zhang will naturally fight the world's literary heroes and let Miss Jingshu walk out of Yanlai restaurant with dignity. Hearing this, in the attic, Jingshu Chang's cold eyes flashed with a touch of excitement. But it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Then thank you very much. About the poetry meet. I would like to trouble you to help him after all. I don't know anything else but this huge 18 strokes. I will show you my incompetence. Since Prince Zhang has cracked the zither music, then today, Jingshu will announce this name here. But presumably, Mr. Li already knows this song? How could she not know Li Chengqian's identity? For people like them, the first thing they had to do to survive here was to recognize people clearly. Therefore, it was too easy for them to know about the Hygge 18 beats. But at this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. He was also shocked. 18 strokes of the Wuxia? This? I seem to have heard that this is Kai Wenji's famous song. What? Wasn't it lost a long time ago? How is this possible? Oh my god. I finally know why no one can crack it. It's been F*King lost. But who is this so-called Prince Zhang? How did he decipher this song? Ding! As the melancholic sound of the guzheng rang out, the entire Swallow Descent restaurant fell into silence. The moment the song's indignant zither intent rang out, everyone seemed to have sunk into that kind of endless sorrow. Anger, a kind of leisurely anger, instantly filled everyone's hearts. The 18 beats were over very quickly. But very quickly more than 2 hours had passed. 2 hours later, the guzheng music was stopped, and there was no more sound coming from the attic. Ching Chimo couldn't sit still anymore. Since Miss Jingshu is performing, then let me show you Brother Zhang's tricycle. While talking, Ching Chimo found a few strong and agile guys among the stubborn people, and went downstairs. Everyone couldn't sit still anymore. They wanted to see what was so magical about this magical thing. Chang'an sat on the tricycle and waved his hand coquettishly. Everyone, I can tell you about this thing. Although my brother didn't tell me about the magic of this thing, I can tell you that this thing is much more interesting than riding a horse or sitting in a sedan. Every pedal has a pattern. If you master it well, although it's not as fast as a horse, once you think about it, if you use it as a carriage or a war chariot, how spectacular would it be on the battlefield? It's faster than all the wooden carriages we use now. While talking, Chang'an didn't believe it himself. This thing was too strenuous. But considering that he was showing Jingshu the good thing of Zhang Feng's brother, how could he not do his best? One had to know that at this time, if he performed well here, once Jingshu married into the family, wouldn't Zhang Feng be obedient as long as she blew a gentle breeze? What kind of man was he to be so stingy when learning something from him? Jingshu watched very carefully. However, watching Chang'an and the other two playing on the tricycle in the attic, she even keenly saw that a few things fell off the tricycle, and the wheel seemed to be a little deformed after bumping in a pothole. This thing, although looked so magical, but could it be that this was still an unfinished item? Otherwise, with Prince Zhang's character, why didn't he tell them? Did they secretly take it out? Thinking of this, Jingshu instantly lost interest. Thank you for your demonstration, Child Chen. I hope Child Chen can quickly return this thing to Prince Zhang. I'm tired today. Jingshu will leave first. While speaking, Jingshu disappeared from the attic window. And those ministers' sons were even more confused. Prince Zhang? Who was that Prince Zhang? Who exactly was the person who could make Jingshu protect him like this? Chapter 393. Jingshu had left, but the banquet was still going on. Especially with the addition of the Huji girls, the atmosphere suddenly became more lively. The exotic singing and dancing made everyone even more interested in poetry, and even more interested in drinking. When Li Chengqian was drinking to his heart's content, he stood on the table, raised the wine pot and shouted, "When toasting, don't stop drinking. Let me sing a song with you, please listen to me." Buzz! Everyone was in an uproar. Even Jingshu, who was in the attic, was shocked. She hurriedly sent a maid to ask Chang'an, and was shocked to learn that this poem was also Prince Zhang's poem. Jingshu was relieved. Initially, she was still worried that no matter how talented young Master Zhang was, it would be impossible for him to win the hearts of all the scholars. However, things were different now. Now with this poem, Zhang Feng would definitely shut up all the literary giants in the world. Prince Zhang, what have you been through? How can you have such an artistic conception? When toasting, don't stop drinking. When can I be by your side? Even in a lively banquet, there were times when the music ended and people dispersed. No matter how drunk one was, there were times when one would wake up. When the sky was dark, Zhang Feng woke up groggily. It was not that he did not want to wake up, but he had to urinate. When he went out to pee in a daze, he almost got peed in his crotch. Zhang Feng was dumbfounded when he saw the severely deformed tricycle. It could even be said that it was scrapped. In the next moment, Zhang Feng was furious. Chen Tiniu, Lao Tzu f *ck your ancestors. Damn it. Damn it, don't let Lao Tzu see you again. At this moment, not only were the tires of the tricycle constricted, but the wheels were also triangular. Not to mention riding it. He couldn't even push it away. He seriously doubted how this idiot had done it. The wooden boards of the carriage were all broken. Even the chain of the tricycle had snapped. In any case, the tricycle now would only be a piece of scrap metal in the future. Motherf ***, Lao Tzu had never ridden one before. Was it scrapped just like that? Motherf ***. Fengzi, what are you howling about? At this moment, hearing the wolf's howl, Zhu Zi's father and old he hurriedly rushed into the tavern with their carrying poles. They thought that Zhang Feng's tavern had been robbed. This was a big deal. But as soon as he entered, he saw the strange thing in the shadows in the courtyard and was puzzled. Fengzi, what did you lose? Or what? Yeah, tell me. What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Burglarized? Or what? Say something. Uncle, my heart is bitter. Zhang Feng was filled with sorrow. Motherf ***, this is worse than being robbed. This group of D*MN things, they don't take my hard work seriously. The two of them understood. At noon, although they were busy catching locusts and making money, they clearly saw the three stubborn guys take this thing out of Zhang Feng's tavern. At first, they thought that Zhang Feng had agreed to it. But now it seemed that there was another reason. Fengzi, just tell us what's wrong. If these bastards really dared to rob you, Lao Tzu would bite off a piece of meat from them, and avenge you even if it costs him his life. When Zhang Feng heard that, he hurriedly waved his hand at the two men who were so anxious that their eyes turned red. Forget it, forget it. I was drunk and fell into their trap. Next time, I'll get back at them personally. When the two of them heard that, they did not say anything else. How could the two of them not understand that this guy was angry out of humiliation, because he could not outdrink them? All right. If you're a coward, don't compete with others in drinking. I told you to get married earlier and marry Miss Zhang. Wouldn't that be great? If you do it yourself, hurry up and find someone to watch over you. You're going to lose your life. The two of them shook their heads and sighed. They did not stay and left. Zhang Feng smacked his lips. What else could he say? Wasn't he asking for it? Ever since she was born, she had to let her father dip a mouthful of wine in her mouth before she would cry. She was a person who could drink wine the moment she was born. Why would you drink with her? Great, isn't it? Zhang Feng kicked the tricycle angrily. No way. He would look for old Chen tomorrow and make him pay. He could not let him off so easily. Damn it. When he saw the tricycle, Zhang Feng felt a toothache. He decided not to look at it. He covered his head and fell asleep. While Zhang Feng was sleeping in the palace, Li Shimin was also listening to the reports of his subordinates with great interest. From time to time, he would burst into hearty laughter. Great! Ha ha ha, I really want to see what that tricycle looks like now. If this thing is really as Cheng Chimo said, then I'm also looking forward to the future of the Tang dynasty. That's right. Ask the crown prince to come here. I want to ask him personally. By the way, is he back yet? Chapter 394. Your Majesty, there hasn't been any news from the Eastern Palace, so we don't know if the Crown Prince has returned. However, Prime Minister Wei and Lord Zhangsun are waiting outside the hall. Little Gizi hurried to the door and asked. Li Shimin waved his hand. Summon them. Summon Wei Zhang, Zhangsun Wuji, and Feng Xianling for an audience. Little Gizi shouted at the top of his lungs. The three people who had been waiting outside the hall entered the imperial study unhurriedly. This old subject pays respects to your Majesty. My beloved subjects, sit. We just heard an interesting news. Brother Zhang Feng came up with another good toy. Oh, may I ask your Majesty, what good thing is it? Although everyone knew what had happened, they didn't dare to say that they knew. They pretended to be confused and surprised. When Li Shimin saw this, he clasped his hands behind his back and paced back and forth in the imperial study. I heard that the Crown Prince, Chang'an, and that brat Chimo had obtained something called a tricycle from Brother Zhang Feng, and were wandering around Chang'an. I also heard that they had caused some trouble at Yanlai restaurant. Tricycle? What is this thing? Why haven't we heard of it before? Brother Zhang Feng is hiding it from us. Isn't that so? The last time I went to his place, if it wasn't for my quick reflexes to ask for a pot from him, I reckon that the pot would still be hidden by him. It would have been better if Zhangsun Wuji hadn't said anything, but his words instantly caused the others to roll their eyes. This guy had stolen it from Zhang Feng and his brother, and now he was still showing off? If not for Brother Zhang Feng being too embarrassed to say anything, do you think you're the only one who can do it? You're the one with the thickest skin here. Enough, let's not talk about that matter anymore. We get angry every time we see that pot of yours. Let's talk about the tricycle. What do you think of it? Your Majesty, this old subject has learned about this matter from Chang'an, and I've also learned a little from the people of Swallow Descent Pavilion. Although this carriage is good, it can't be used. This old subject has estimated that the cost of this carriage is around 1,000 copper coins. To tell the truth, it's not as good as the wooden carriage. Li Shimin frowned when he heard this. Feng Xianling also stroked his beard and said, Your Majesty, This subject just went to the treasury and took a look. Although that thing looks awesome, this subject always feels that it's not as fast as a horse, and it's not as reliable as a carriage. If the front wheel is removed and the carriage is put on, then it's bound to be like what Chingchumo said. It can be even lighter and faster than the bronze chariot. Hearing this, Li Shimon's eyes lit up. Wei Jing nodded. That's right, that thing has a drawback. The wheels are too small. Chapter 395. In Chang'an City, all the people were hunting for locusts like crazy. The insecticide on a beacon tower was still burning in the distance. From Chang'an City to Hudong Road, Hunan Road, Jiannan Road, Shannon Road, Jiangnan Road, and Longyu Road, all the beacon towers were lit. There were even people who used the fire belt that Zhang Feng had mentioned in a suitable area. They used the method of burning. In addition to the supplementary herbs that were burned in the fire, this instantly reduced the threat of the locusts. But this was just a facade. The locusts that blotted out the sky and covered the earth continued to pour in from the direction of Longyu and Tuyuhan. Li Shimin waved his hand again. He mobilized all the pharmacies and collected all the herbs that could be used to weaken the locusts. But now, the locusts' momentum was gone. Tuyuhan and Tubo didn't believe Li Shimin at first. But when they saw the situation, they took the prescription that Zhangsun Wuji gave them and learned from the Tang dynasty. They implemented it bit by bit. Although people were a little dizzy and some even had diarrhea, at least the locusts were eliminated. This was undoubtedly a good news for them. At this time, the people of Tubo and Tuyuhan didn't thank their king. Instead, they thanked the emperor of the Tang dynasty. If it weren't for him, they would have been dead by now. After 3 days, the locusts were finally stopped at the root. But looking at the barren land, everyone was dumbfounded. How could they plant crops like this? All the crops in the fields this year were fed to those damn locusts. How could they survive? At this time, Li Shimin and his people had arrived near the Shirley Slope outside Chang'an City. Li Shimin and his people were about 300, but each of them pretended to be people catching locusts. At this time, the trees on the Shirley Slope were still there, but there were no leaves. On the trees and on the ground, there were dense locusts that were dizzy from the insecticide. Looking at this barren land that stretched as far as the eye could see, Li Shimin asked in astonishment, "Little Gizi, this is Shirley Slope? I remember that this place used to be lush with vegetation, and it was all jungles. But why are the trees all bare? Where is the grass?" "Your Majesty, it's all eaten by locusts. It's all gone." Little Gizi's face was full of grief. Li Shimin felt dizzy. If Wei Shiyu hadn't been smart and supported Li Shimin might have already sat on the ground. How is this possible? Li Shimin was shocked. Was this the power of locusts? If it weren't for Zhang Feng and his brother's formula, they wouldn't have been able to control most of the locusts in such a short time. Even if they wanted to achieve the current results, it would probably take more than a month. Thinking that next year, which was the 3rd year of Xingguan, there would be a more serious locust plague than this one, Li Shimin couldn't help but feel scared. If this was true, then all the herbs this year had been used up. What about next year? What about next year? He didn't think that if they did this year, all the locusts would have been killed before the breeding season. Plus, all the chickens and ducks would have gone to war. Then where would there be locusts next year? Plus, there would be fire. And if Tubo and Tuyuhan used the herbs that could directly kill locusts, then where would there be locusts next year? Even if there were, it would only be a few, far from the scale of this year. Li Shimin didn't think of all this at this time. He was just shocked by everything in front of him. Ga. At this time, a large flock of ducks and chicks, with no end in sight, were being herded by hundreds of people from afar. At this time, the ducks' bellies were full. Under the herders herding, they circled a large area by the Wei River for the ducks to rest temporarily. It seemed that tomorrow, the 10-mile slope would be their next battlefield. It wasn't until he saw the ducks and chicks that Li Shimin's mood improved slightly. After all, although everything was bare now, as long as there were no more locusts, the 10-mile slope would recover in less than a month. It was only a matter of time. If they could control the locust plague this year, what about next year? Since Zhang Feng could think of a solution this time, then what about next year? Thinking of this, Li Shimin felt a little tired and started patrolling again. Lao Li? You also brought your servants to make a fortune. At this time, a person suddenly appeared from behind the crowd and waved his hands at Li Shimin. At this time, he was already held down by the Jinwu guards in makeup. When Li Shimin heard the voice, how could he not know who it was? He hurriedly turned around and ordered the crowd to retreat. What are you doing? Let go of Brother Zhang Feng. Brother, why are you here? Li Shimin hurried over and asked. Zhang Feng pointed at the basket behind him. I have nothing to do, right? I came here to see if I could get some game, but as you can see, there are only locusts and grasshoppers here. Didn't you see that flock of ducks? I was thinking of buying a few to make soy sauce duck. Chapter 396. Zhang Feng was very depressed. He couldn't stay in the tavern any longer. He didn't know where old Madame Wang was cramping up. She came to him every 2 or 3 days and asked for his birth characters. She even said that next month would be an auspicious day. However, Zhang Feng rejected her. Today he encountered such a thing again. How could Zhang Feng not be driven crazy? He decided to go all the way. He closed the door and left. That way he would have some peace and quiet. The two of them sat in Li Shimin's sedan and slowly returned to the tavern. As usual, Zhang Feng made a bowl of century egg porridge for Li Shimin. This time Li Shimin was stunned. Looking at the century egg in the bowl, he asked curiously, Brother Zhang Feng, this is century egg. Old Madame Wang always comes to me. Last month, she gave me a basket of duck eggs. I can't finish them all by myself, so I made them into century eggs for her. What's a century egg? Also duck eggs, aren't they all very expensive now? Li Shimin was in a bad mood. Looking at the black and translucent century egg, he asked. Ordinary people would definitely not be willing to eat this egg. Moreover, as far as he knew, a duck egg or an egg could be sold for at least 10 copper coins. However, food was only 6 copper coins now. Moreover, it was in such a serious situation. Sigh. Zhang Feng sighed heavily. Brother, there's something you don't know. Old Madame Wang would definitely not be willing to take out these eggs, let alone 30 of them. My boyfriend, who hasn't seen her for the new year, secretly gave them to her and asked her to bring them. Zhang Feng was a little speechless. Li Shimin suddenly understood. Everything made sense now. However, there was another problem. That was the egg. What was it? Although he had never doubted Zhang Feng's culinary skills, looking at the shiny black thing in the spoon, he really lost his appetite. However, under Zhang Feng's instigation, he took out a whole century egg from the kitchen and ate it with relish in front of Li Shimin. He even drank a mouthful of wine. This time, Li Shimin's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He subconsciously took a bite of the century egg in his spoon, but in the next moment he couldn't help but frown deeply. This egg didn't have any strange taste and it was very chewy. This egg. Don't ask, I won't tell you even if you ask. Zhang Feng directly interrupted Li Shimin. This is a treasure. This is something I'm preparing to present to the emperor when I enter the imperial court. Since you're here today, I'll let you have some. Let's make it clear first. You mustn't tell anyone about this, especially Chen Tiniu, Chong Buggy Li Gan, and the others. Li Shimin pursed his lips. He looked at Zhang Feng with a look of disdain. However, Zhang Feng didn't even bother to look at him. After a while, when Li Shimin carefully tasted a big bowl of bone-strengthening powder porridge, Zhang Feng mysteriously rubbed the door with his mouth and said, Lao Li, see, I was right. What was right? Li Shimin was dumbfounded. What else? This locust. See what I told you? I told you to hurry up, but you didn't listen. Now everything I guessed, the emperor also guessed. See if I guessed correctly, brother? What could Li Shimin say? He gave him a thumbs up. You're awesome. Sigh. It's a pity that this deal is over. I originally wanted to make a lot of money with you, and even let you get in touch with some high-ranking officials. Now, it seems that everything has been guessed correctly by the wise emperor. By the way, how's the bone-strengthening powder factory? Well, we'll do it again. Li Shimin touched his nose and pretended to be drinking. What could he say? He was sitting next to him now. He was indeed a little unscrupulous in this matter. But there was no other way, right? Zhang Feng and his brother hadn't been confirmed yet, and he couldn't directly say when they would go to the imperial court. Li Shimin couldn't help but ask, "Brother Zhang Feng, I heard Lord Zhangsun, the Minister of the Ministry of Justice, say that there's a vacancy in the Ministry of Justice. You, old son told me about this before, but that bastard is unscrupulous. You should have said it when we were talking about it. He even took Lao Tzu's pot away." Zhang Feng was speechless. If I don't go to the Ministry of Justice, not only will I offend people, but I'll also be remembered. Let's not talk about this now. By the way, Lao Li, looking at you today, did something happen? Zhang Feng wanted to ask Li Shimin directly for the loss of the tricycle, but when he thought of Li Shimin's appearance, he couldn't bear to say it now. It would have been better if Zhang Feng didn't say it, but once he said it, Li Shimin's face immediately turned red. Brother, you don't know. As your brother, I'm suffering. When Zhang Feng heard this, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. What kind of trouble did you encounter this time? I remember that you should have made a fortune by now, right? What else is there to worry about? What can't be solved with 100 caddies of bone-strengthening powder? Don't tell me that the bone-strengthening powder in the palace wasn't made by you. Do you know that the price of that stuff is now 100 copper coins per caddy? I'll only ask for this amount of money when the time comes. As he spoke, Zhang Feng stretched out his palm. Li Shimin's eyes widened when he saw this. Chapter 397. I say, brother, you want 50% of it? Yes. Zhang Feng pursed his lips. Although we haven't gotten married yet, as an official, we have to do this, don't we? We have to prepare for it. We have to get a house, right? It's best if it's a courtyard. Also, we have to prepare a family property for our future son, right? How can this not cost money? What if the emperor likes our food after we enter the court? Don't you think we have to spend money? So, we have to save some money now. Moreover, the profit from the bone-strengthening powder is a business without capital. Believe it or not, even the emperor has a stake in it. Otherwise, how can it be sold for 100 copper coins per caddy? Wouldn't it be a mess? Li Shimin's mouth twitched. Money was not a problem. No matter how much he wanted, he had to give it to him. Putting aside the fact that the bone-strengthening powder was invented by Zhang Feng, just the salt-making technique, the trade of Jinla, and the water transportation were all profitable businesses. It was not that Li Shimin did not want to give him money. He had to give it to Zhang Feng, even if he wanted a city. However, this was a matter for the future. If he gave it now, it would only harm Zhang Feng. Therefore, he had to wait for Zhang Feng to grow up. At that time, even if he was given a prince or a state capital, it would not be a problem. Okay, I'll give you 50% then. But let's say this first. You know how profitable it is. Not only the emperor has a stake in it, you also know that almost all the officials have a stake in it. So when the time comes, we'll talk about this later. The business of the bone-strengthening powder has to be done quickly. Now that the locusts are hoarding a lot, it's good to hoard more. What's the good? Now when I hear the word locusts, my head hurts. What's wrong with you? Zhang Feng could not help but be curious. He's not making a lot of money. Do you want to announce all of this? That's not it. It would be great if that's the case. Li Shimin shook his head speechlessly. Isn't it because those damned locusts have gnawed away the grass? Now we can only look at the locusts and bone-strengthening powder piled up like a mountain. We can't transport them out. Your cattle and sheep have been requisitioned. Zhang Feng peeled another century egg. While eating, he glared at Li Shimin. Now let alone cows and sheep, even the war horses in the barracks are starving. Think about it, how can my mules and horses have the strength to pull goods? I'm starving to death. Zhang Feng understood. No wonder Lao Li's legs went soft when he saw the barren land outside Chang'an city. It turned out that this was the reason. Lao Li, that's all you want? Zhang Feng was in disbelief. Then, Do you think there's anything else that can make me worried? Li Shimin seriously doubted Zhang Feng's intentions. This guy might be despising him now. Chapter 398. Li Shimin was shocked. He automatically filtered out Zhang Feng's sarcastic words. He had eaten locusts countless times, and they had even become a must-have dish before going to bed every night. It was the same with the bone-strengthening powder. The locusts tasted fine, but the bone-strengthening powder was different. It had the faint fragrance of grass. Now that he thought about it, if it could be eaten by humans, what about horses? If this thing was really useful, wouldn't all the difficulties of the Tang dynasty be solved? Moreover, if this thing could be eaten by humans, what about animals? Although it didn't sound good, it made sense. Every day, he received news from the treasury and Du Ruhui that tens of thousands of locusts would spoil every day. It was not man-made, and the weather was too hot. If there were too many locusts, however, if he directly collected them, or if he didn't deal with the locusts that were about to spoil, he would directly take them out to roast and grind them into powder. The effect would be much higher. Li Shimin took a deep breath and cupped his fists. Brother, you are really the god of wealth. Sometimes, I really have an illusion that you are the god of wealth in the sky. How is it that everything, even a rock or a pile of shit, can become a treasure in your hands? Zhang Feng's face darkened. Why do I feel that you are scolding me? Li Shimin laughed heartily. No. I'm just praising you from the bottom of my heart. Come on. Zhang Feng waved his hand and didn't care about these details. Laoli, do you want to do this business or not? The profit is definitely not as good as the bone-strengthening powder. If you don't want to do it, I will ask the neighbors to do it. By the way, the people of Huitong Workshop can also make a little profit. Of course. Who says I don't want to do it? When Li Shimin heard that someone wanted to steal his business, he immediately grabbed Zhang Feng's hand and didn't let go. Zhang Feng was a little speechless. All right. Come here. As you can see, the terrain of Shirley Slope is very good. Do you want to build a fodder factory there? In that case. Wait, what's a feed factory? Li Shimin hurriedly interrupted Zhang Feng and said helplessly. Can you tell me in detail? Every time, you just skimmed over the important parts. I still have to think about it for half a day when I go back. I can't figure it out even with a large group of people around me for an entire night. I still have to come to you. Hearing Li Shimin's words, Zhang Feng glared at Li Shimin and said, Who is it that said I was long-winded? That's enough, brother. Laoli was wrong, okay? You really have to explain this matter clearly. What is this animal feed factory? Is it that fodder farm? Li Shimin knew that he couldn't win against Zhang Feng, so he hurriedly changed the topic. Zhang Feng thought for a moment and said, That's about it. What's the profit in it? Li Shimin spread out his hands and said. Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder and said with a smile like a profiteer. Laoli, can't you think of this? Let me ask you. Now, are all the war horses in the Emperor's military camp hungry? I heard that Tubo seemed to have given all the livestock he could at home to the Tang dynasty. Do they need it? This market is born because of demand. Think about it first. Not only do these two places need it, but those merchants, landlords, and old tycoons also have a lot of poultry, cattle, and sheep, don't they? Do they need to eat these things? Li Shimin frowned slightly. He nodded. There's nothing wrong with what you said. But the problem is that once someone finds out that it's bone-strengthening powder, won't my interest soon fade? Yes. Didn't I say that the profit is very faint? Zhang Feng spread out his hands. He added with a smile. Although the profit is faint, as long as you hold on to the military camp and the Emperor's large herd of livestock waiting to be fed, your business will not stop. You can even make a lot of money because of this. I see that your Li Qian has the attitude of an official. Once the Emperor is happy, not only will you make a lot of money, but Li Qian may also be directly appointed as a supervisor because of this. Isn't that good? Isn't he good? Now, do you still think that he has no profit in it? But the premise is that you have to be fast. As long as you can contribute before the Emperor comes up with a solution, then, Zhang Feng also knew that there was a super think tank by Li Shimon's side. If that was not the case, how could he be more awesome than himself, a transmigrator? Impossible. Unless he was also a time traveler, but that was also impossible. If Li Shimon was also a time traveler, he would have come long ago. His appearance must have attracted the emperor's attention, but he had not been noticed until now. This meant that either the emperor was waiting for an opportunity, or the emperor felt that it was not enough. At the very least, Zhang Feng felt that before he did something that shocked the world, Li Shimon would not give a damn about him. The emperor was the real emperor. He was just a small commoner. Would the emperor come to him personally for such a small matter? He was thinking too much. All the opportunities were created by him. But at the thought of this, Zhang Feng could not help but curse the system in his heart. That damned bastard system. F***CKU. Chapter 399. Zhang Feng told Li Shimon about the animal feed factory in detail. Li Shimon's heart was blooming. Li Shimon could not help but feel excited. After all, there were tens of millions of mouths waiting for him. After they finished talking, Li Shimon was about to slip away, but Zhang Feng grabbed him. "Old Li, we've solved your problem, but you'll have to wait a little longer for my problem." Li Shimon was confused. He looked at Zhang Feng from head to toe, and saw that there were no wounds on his body. He could not help but ask in confusion, "What happened to you?" His first thought was that the Turks had come again. But when he thought about it, something was wrong. The Turks had not taken any action for a long time. Even the Turks' spies in Chang'an city had not taken any action. As for the Turks themselves, they were already in a state of chaos. Every tribe was fighting happily as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Li Shimon could not wait to be idle. Now could it be that brother Zhang Feng had found some clues? Li Shimon could not help but sit down. But Zhang Feng stood up and urged him. Come, follow me to the backyard. Let's talk in the backyard." Once they entered the backyard, Li Shimon immediately understood. Brother Zhang Feng wanted to ask for compensation. Although Li Shimon had never seen that tricycle before, looking at the 3 wheels and the iron lump that was parked crookedly in the yard, how could he not understand the truth of the matter? He could not help but sympathize with Zhang Feng. "Brother Zhang Feng, what is this thing?" "Ask me. Why don't you ask your son?" "Damn it. Not only did they get me drunk yesterday, but they also stole my tricycle and scrapped it." "Old Li, tell me, what should I do with this thing?" Zhang Feng asked. "What should I do with it?" Zhang Feng's face was filled with disdain. "This is something that I spent a lot of effort to create." Zhang Feng's heart ached as he spoke. And Li Shimon finally knew that this thing was really stolen by those 3 guys. "Brother Zhang Feng, what is this thing?" "A tricycle." No, I mean, what's the use of this thing?" "You iron lump. Why do I only see 3 wheels that don't look like wheels?" Hey. Come, Lao Li, let me ask you. Do you want to be rich?" Suddenly, an idea came to him. But he was interested. If this thing was broken, he could ask his father to pay for it. But Zhang Feng pulled Li Shimon to sit on the reclining chair in the yard and said, "Lao Li, let me ask you. How are you doing with the iron boat?" Li Shimon heard this and nodded. "I'm working on it. I estimate that in 3 months, the first iron boat will be completed." "Good." Zhang Feng nodded. He pointed to the dilapidated 3-wheeled road and said, "Since we already have this iron boat, do you think it's still a problem to build an iron carriage?" "No, this thing, can he use a horse?" "Look, this is the wheel of a carriage, right? Just think about it. If this were to be brought out, let alone transporting goods, even if it were an empty carriage, it would be scrapped in a single day. Look at the shafts and wheels of all the carriages in the Great Tang, and then look at yours." Zhang Feng was despised. Instantly he became anxious. He pulled Li Shimon and said, "Okay, Lao Li, you're being unreasonable, aren't you? If it weren't for your precious son doing such a good thing, I might be riding a tricycle in Chang'an city right now. This thing, don't be fooled by its small wheels. Although it's not as fast as the carriage, do you see the thing on the wheel? Once I turn him into the size of a bull and saddle him with the fastest warhorse, think about it, You'll be a piece of cake. Think about it carefully. At that time, let's not talk about traveling 1,000 miles in a day. A normal carriage, carrying a load of goods, basically costs about 300 stone roads and 500 stones. After 100 miles, the carriage will basically be scrapped. It can't be rushed, so the wear and tear will be even greater. But this thing is fine. No matter how much goods you load, you'll be fine as long as you run like a horse. Think about it. Think about it again. This thing is nothing. What's really amazing is that if you saddle a mule with this thing, it will be 100 times more comfortable than your normal carriage. The key to all of this was this jet black thing. Once I get it out, even if your carriage runs very fast, the wine in the wine bowl of the person drinking inside won't spill. Do you believe it? Li Shimin had been stunned for a long time. Although he didn't know what the soft thing was, perhaps it was the same as shoes or horseshoes. But if it was really like what Zhang Feng said, not to mention the wheel as big as a bowl, even if it was as big as a fist, it could, while talking. Li Shimin got up and looked in front of the broken tricycle. Zhang Feng lifted the tricycle and gently moved the good wheel with 2 fingers. Lao Li looked carefully. Chapter 400. In Li Shimin's horrified eyes, the wheels started to rotate at an inconceivable speed. He even saw a small piece of wood being blown gently by the wind as the wheel rotated. How much force did it take? How fast was it? Zhang Feng only used 2 fingers. Li Shimin couldn't help but grab the rapidly rotating wheel. Then he imitated Zhang Feng's action and fiercely pulled an iron plate on the wheel. In an instant, the wheel started to rotate at an incredible speed. Lao Li, this thing was ruined by your son. Originally, I was thinking of waiting for you to come so that we could discuss it together and see if we could take this thing and make a fortune. It could even let our name be immortalized for generations to come. But, sigh, what a pity. Now we can't see it. When Li Shimin heard that, he could not help being startled. He asked cautiously, "What do you mean? Isn't it because the raw material of this wheel is limited? The fodder is limited. I only got a little bit. And you haven't seen how awesome this wheel is. Naturally, you don't know how to make it." Zhang Feng wanted to tell him about the rickshaw in the future, but he was afraid that Li Shimin's little heart would explode because of his son's impulsiveness. So he could only talk about it later. Li Shimin heard that. His fiery heart couldn't help but be splashed with a basin of cold water. He just remembered this thing. When he was chatting with Zhang Sun and the others in the imperial study, they mentioned something about chariots. At this time, the wheel of a small car wouldn't work. But if what Zhang Feng said was true, then, with a wheel as big as a bowl, would the army supplies be as difficult as before? In the future, if all the chariots in the army were replaced with this kind of thing, then if only 1,000 of these things were installed with strong crossbows, who would be a match for the cavalry of the Tang dynasty? Every army only needed 1,000 of these small chariots. But Li Shimin couldn't help cursing Chingchumo and the other 2 in his heart. If it weren't for the 3 of them, I might be the first person to experience this thing now. These 3 prodigals. Do you know what I lost because of your impulsiveness? What did the Tang dynasty lose? Li Shimin couldn't help but feel anxious. Brother Zhang Feng, is this tricycle really so good? Of course. Seeing Li Shimin anxious, Zhang Feng, on the contrary, was not anxious. Think about it. Nowadays, cars are basically made of wood, right? Although this kind of car is cheap and easy to make, its lifespan is relatively short. Moreover, this car can't be easily broken. However, this iron one is different. Once it's made, it will be a long-term solution. What do you think? Do you have any ideas? Do you want to do it together? Once this thing is made, it will be a great thing. Lao Li, think about it. Chapter 402. Eastern Palace. Li Chengqian, Du Go, Chengchumo, Zhang Sun, and Chong were sitting in the pavilion, chatting about yesterday's interesting news. Dugo was fascinated by it. Chengqian, are you sure that Brother Zhang Feng didn't say anything else? No, he already said 8 times he didn't say anything. If you ask again, do you believe that this crown prince won't allow you to come to the Eastern Palace in the future? Li Chengqian was annoyed. Today was supposed to be a day to be happy. Yesterday he had been ordered to visit Zhang Feng and received permission not to return to the palace. Last night he had gone crazy, but he didn't expect that when he returned, his father wouldn't be there. Instead he met Dugo, who had been waiting at the door for a long time. He didn't know where this guy got the news from, but he knew that they went to see Zhang Feng yesterday. So he pestered the 3 of them and asked if Brother Zhang Feng had said anything about learning. The 3 of them had said this many times, and even Cheng Chimo had raised his fist to threaten him. But this guy was like a rock in a latrine pit, not enlightened at all. At this time, Li Chengqian also laid his cards on the table. If you ask again, then don't come. But this time, Dugo also exploded. He didn't believe that these 3 guys didn't ask anything. And he really remembered that Li Chengqian seemed to be researching algorithms. Was he not curious about the multiplication table other than the division table? Chengqian, don't be anxious. We're all brothers. There's no need to be so secretive. I also heard some things here. If you say it, we brothers might be able to save your life. TCH. The 3 of them rolled their eyes at the same time. Debing, you're crazy. I already said that the 3 of us did go find Fengzi yesterday, but who knew that grandson's alcohol tolerance was so bad? He got me drunk in minutes and didn't ask anything. Believe it or not, I've already told you. If you... Then what's going on at Swallow Descent restaurant? Fengzi got drunk. This crown prince finally got to go out of the palace. Shouldn't I go have some fun? Li Chengqian was anxious. But he also faintly felt that something was wrong. He asked subconsciously, how did you know? How would I know? Everything that should be known, everything that shouldn't be known. Even the retired emperor knows. Gradually their expressions changed. A strange feeling made them look at each other. Zhang Sun placed a hand on Dugo's shoulder and asked, Hook, are we brothers? That depends on whether you treat me as your brother or not. Dugo shot a glance at Zhang Sun. He used 2 fingers to clamp that hand down from his shoulder, and even patted his shoulder in disgust. This scene made Zhang Sun want to beat someone up. Then where did Imperial Father go? He went out. Where did you go? However, at this moment, a golden guard shouted from outside the door, Crown Prince, sirs, the Emperor has returned to the palace. You all should go to the imperial study and wait for the decree. Otherwise, when the time comes, you all will. When they heard this, they were all shocked. He's back. Let's go. The Emperor probably won't say anything. At most, he'll just scold you all. Wei Shiyu kindly reminded them. When Li Chengqian and Zhang Sun heard this, their hearts also moved. That's right, the one who rode the bike in the end was Cheng Chimo. Moreover, this bastard had been trying to hide it. Since he wanted to hide it, then let him bear it alone. Moreover, wasn't it just riding Fengzi's bike? What's the big deal? At most, they'll just be scolded. Alright. Let's go. When Li Chengqian thought of this, his heart calmed down. But Cheng Chimo was sullen as he followed the others, slowly walking forward. Others might not know, but how could he not know? This time, he had played a big game. The bike was scrapped. How could it be easy when the Emperor was angry? When the time came, a beating would be a light punishment. When they returned home, that would be the beginning of the nightmare. Cheng Chimo cried. He wished he could slap himself a few times. In order to show off now, they all had their own ulterior motives and casually followed Wei Shiyu to the door of the imperial study. The 3 of them looked at each other and confirmed that the Emperor had not returned yet. Only then did they heave a deep sigh of relief and kneel down. However, when they knelt down, Wei Shiyu waved her hand and tied the 3 of them up with a rope. Wei Shiyu, you dare to tie this crown prince up? Wei Shiyu, you're crazy. Let go. Everyone, don't blame me. You'll know in a while. I'm doing this for your own good." As he spoke, he viciously stepped on Chang'an's hands that were behind his back. He fiercely pulled on the rope, causing Chang'an to howl in pain. "Brother, don't blame me. You'll have to thank me later. This time, you've really played a big game. You don't know how scary the emperor was at that time. I've never seen the emperor so angry before." When Li Chengqian heard this, he became anxious. Even Du Go, who followed the four of them, had a serious expression. The few of them angrily shouted, "Chang'an, what the hell did you do yesterday? If you don't say it, Lao Tzu won't let you off." Chang'an was terrified. "I accidentally scrapped the bike." Chapter 405. In the tavern, Zhang Feng played with the two black-colored glass pieces that Guzi had taken from the river. Finally, he placed the two pieces of glass on his eyes. In an instant, the glaring sunlight became as docile as a sheep. However, Zhang Feng looked at the blurry mirror and threw it to the corner of the wall in dissatisfaction. This thing was good, but it had been worn out by the sand and stones. It was useless. "Brother Feng! Brother Feng! Brother Feng!" At this moment, Guzi and Zhuzi, who were dripping wet, ran over from afar. When they saw Zhang Feng, who was lying on the deck chair at the entrance of the tavern, they were so excited that they jumped up and down. They held up several colorful glass pieces in their hands. "Brother Feng, we just picked these up from the barbarian merchants in Shi City. Take a look and see if these glass pieces are useful." Zhang Feng was interested. He threw the fan in his hand to Guzi. Guzi started fanning himself. At the same time, Zhang Feng was also carefully playing with the glass pieces one by one. This thing, to put it bluntly, was glass. It was just called differently in the Tang dynasty. Because the craftsmanship was too rough, the glass was basically filled with bubbles. Although it looked harmless after being made into handicrafts, Zhang Feng was not satisfied. He took two pieces of glass that were either burnt or covered with black dye, and covered his eyes again. This was the last piece that looked decent. It was only the size of a palm, but it was enough to make sunglasses. "Not bad, this thing works." Zhang Feng put the glass pieces in his pocket with satisfaction. Then he took out a string of money and threw it to the two. "If you two don't go catch grasshoppers, won't your parents beat you?" Hearing this, the two shook their heads like a rattle drum. "They won't. My father said that Brother Feng is going to be a big official in the future. He is going to be our teacher. Even if Brother Feng wants me to steal a bird's nest or catch a snake, I will do it." Zhang Feng was a little speechless. This Zhuzi's father was really. He dared to say anything? "Tell your father that he can't speak carelessly about such things. Save it, save it. Dad said that there's something wrong with Brother Feng. He doesn't want to be famous." As he spoke, Zhuzi pointed at his head. Zhang Feng was so angry that he took off his shoes and hit him. After playing around for a while, Zhang Feng was so hot that he lay back down on the recliner. He looked at the barren crooked tree and mumbled to himself before entering the tavern. As for the two fellows who had just received the money, they had already run off to buy snacks. Zhang Feng was too lazy to care about them. Besides, he couldn't do anything about it even if he wanted to, so he simply stopped asking. Instead, he was thinking about how to make sunglasses. Suddenly, Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something. Fan Ting hurried to the door and picked up a few useless pieces of colored glass. From the counter, he took out the two natural pink diamonds he had bought from the Hu merchants. This thing was a treasure. Although this thing was not valued in this world, its rarity was not inferior to any kind of gemstone. More importantly, this thing was a diamond. Cutting glass was as easy as cutting tofu. Zhang Feng tried 3 times and finally cut out a lens of the shape he wanted from a piece of emerald-colored glass. Looking at the lens, Zhang Feng grinned. This was the first prototype of Lao Tzu's sunglasses from the Tang dynasty. As he thought about it, Zhang Feng suddenly felt sad. Unconsciously, tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. "I say, Feng, if you want colored glass, just tell me. Even if I give it to a merchant who knows how to make colored glass, it won't be a problem. You're crying just from looking at colored glass? At this moment, Wei Shiyu's surprised voice rang out from behind Zhang Feng. Only then did Zhang Feng come to his senses. He rubbed his eyes and mumbled, "A bug blew into my eyes. Why is Lao Tzu crying?" Wei Shiyu had a strange expression. However, she did not fight with Zhang Feng for anything. She said directly, "All right, I'm here today for serious business. Isn't it the Dragon Boat Festival?" Lao Li was thinking of preparing a table of good dishes for his father. That's why he sent me here to take a look and ask you to prepare a table of good dishes. That's it. Zhang Feng pointed at his nose in confusion. What do you think I, Zhang Feng, am? Everyone deserves to eat Lao Tzu's dishes. I won't do it. Get lost. A table of dishes? You just blurted it out as soon as you opened your mouth. Why don't you think about how tiring it would be on such a hot day? Lao Li was still wondering if he should give you a set of prefaces to the orchid pavilion that he collected. Now it seems. What did you say? Zhang Feng interrupted Wei Shiyu in disbelief. His heart almost jumped out of his chest. A set of prefaces to the orchid pavilion. What the hell, apart from the palace, there were also such things among the commoners. Could it be that these things had become cabbages during the Tang dynasty? Didn't this mean that only the emperor of the dynasty had such treasures? And it was Li Shimon's most cherished item? Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. Yes, it's prefaces to the orchid pavilion. Do you want it? If you want it, this meal. Yes, yes, yes. When do you want it? Lao Tzu can prepare it now, right? But let's say this first. Lao Tzu can't make these green things even if he wanted to. But let's say this first. If you don't have the prefaces to the orchid pavilion, you're in big trouble. Chapter 407. In the past 2 days, the locusts in Chang'an city were wiped out in an instant. The people of Chang'an city were all in high spirits. Even the old man who was over 70 years old was squatting under the tree with his walking stick, looking for locusts with wide eyes. The locusts were a treasure at this time. Originally, everyone thought that this thing was just a pest. Who would have thought that in this half a month, not only did this thing not cause them any losses, but they also made a final calculation. Good heavens, this thing earned them more than what they usually earned in a year. And this was a cost-free business. Now the people in Chang'an city were rich, and their waists were straightened a lot. Even the meat stalls that few people cared about before were surrounded by people picking with their hands behind their backs. That was nothing. The most terrifying thing was the restaurants and tea houses. Good heavens. The Dragon Boat Festival made everyone have an illusion that it was much livelier than the New Year in previous years. All the stalls on the street were crowded with people buying things. This time, as long as the merchants saw the newcomer, it was as if they had seen their ancestor, and they all laughed heartily. In this lively atmosphere, everyone suddenly felt that this was not a calamity from the heavens. This was simply a stroke of good fortune from the heavens. Now those who spread the word that the locusts were pests did not dare to go out. Once they went out, they were afraid that today would be the last time they saw the sun. In the palace, it was also very lively at this time. All the palaces were hung with lanterns. Even the little eunuchs and palace maids were smiling so widely that their teeth could not be seen. Not for anything else, but because the plague of locusts had been stopped, the emperor was happy. After the worship ceremony, hundreds of officials and even everyone in the palace were rewarded by the emperor with a banquet of 10 taels of silver. 10 taels of silver, that was their annual salary. Just because the emperor was happy, everyone received a reward. Who wouldn't be happy? At this time, Taiji Palace. In Li Shimon's bedroom. But it was a little lonely. In the enormous palace, there was only Li Shimon and Li Yuan, 2 people. And at this time, Li Yuan somewhat lost his composure. Looking at the table full of things that she had never seen before. She didn't even use chopsticks. She used her hands to grab a little from this plate, a little from that plate. What dish is this? This is called fish with pickled cabbage. What about this? Salted duck in soy sauce. Then this, I know this is a pig trotter, but what is this? Soft and sticky. Li Yuan was like a curious baby, pointing at the exquisite dishes on the plate, or the dishes that looked incomparably crude. But now, it seemed that the Zhang Feng brothers really had some kind of magical power. Li Shimin was not stupid. It wasn't that he couldn't think of anything. It was because anything could become extremely simple and easy in the hands of Zhang Feng. This was something that no one else could do. It was precisely because of this magical power that Li Shimin wanted to go to the tavern all the time. Even if it was not for business and just to chat, it would make his already irritable heart happy in an instant. By the way, Shimin, today is the Dragon Boat Festival, right? I heard from Chang'an that Zhang Feng is now an orphan. Today. Let's go. Now that we have nothing to do, take me to see Zhang Feng. I also want to see this little guy. This amazing little guy. I want to know whether he is really capable, or has a master behind him. Huitongfang. There is an old acquaintance of mine there. He used to be a great figure in the previous dynasty. He thought that I wouldn't know if he hid in Chang'an. When Li Shimin heard that, the old scholar's appearance flashed in his mind. Father, which old scholar are you talking about who is close to Zhang Feng? Li Yuan nodded. A touch of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. But the next moment, Li Yuan hurriedly asked, when you went out, didn't you meet that guy? And he didn't recognize you? Li Shimin thought for a while and shook his head, saying, no. Every time I go out of the palace, I dress up a little. Unless they see me every day, no one will notice. Hearing that, Li Yuan breathed a deep sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. When Li Yuan heard that the old scholar and Zhang Feng had drawn numbers, he really had a trace of killing intent. But when Li Shimin confirmed that the old scholar did not recognize him, he was slightly relieved. At that time, even so, Li Yuan was still not at ease. He wanted to see for himself whether this Zhang Feng knew Li Shimin's identity or not. If he did not know, then such a strange person must be cherished. If he knew and pretended not to know, then there must be a good discussion. Let's go change my clothes. I will personally meet this little guy, and also take a look at an old friend. While speaking, Li Yuan once again glanced at the words on the wall. The corners of his mouth twitched as he said, tomorrow, find someone to make another copy. These words are too ugly. It's a disgrace to my imperial family's dignity. Do you know that Miss Jingshu from Swallow Descent Restaurant? Upon hearing Jingshu, Li Yuan's eyes lit up. He had even forgotten that he had once appreciated Jingshu's performance a few times. At that time, he and Li Shimin were like fire and water. He originally wanted to summon Jingshu into the palace, but he couldn't bring himself to do so. In the end, after this conflict was resolved, he also forgot about this matter. Now that Li Shimin mentioned it, he couldn't help but ask, Miss Jingshu's music is indeed blessed by the heavens. Why are you mentioning her now? Let her come to my place another day. No, father, let me finish first. How could he not know Li Yuan's plan? Hearing that, he hurriedly explained. Lord Father may not know, but do you still remember Miss Jingshu's zither music? I remember. What does that have to do with anything? That has a lot to do with it. Zhang Feng patted his chest and said, Old Master is also a sentimental person. You don't know Miss Jingshu has mastered a zither music that has long been lost. It's called Huga 18 Beats. It was composed by that Kai Wenji. And this kid is untalented, but he finally cracked it for us. Hearing that, a hint of disbelief flashed across Li Yuan's eyes. He hurriedly asked, You mean you cracked that zither music? That's to say, that Miss Jingshu is now your concubine? Hearing that, Zhang Feng's smile couldn't help but stiffen. He originally wanted to brag, but now as he bragged, He bragged about himself? He couldn't help but rub his nose in embarrassment. That old master, let's drink. Ha ha ha. Brother Zhangfeng actually has a time when he's embarrassed? Li Shimin laughed. He teased. Father, let me tell you about the interesting things. Lao Li, if you're a brother, shut up for me. If you dare to say it, we won't be brothers in the future. Zhang Feng was anxious. It was better not to let the elders know about this kind of thing. If he knew about it, where would he put his old face? Although it looked like Zhang Feng was only 20 years old now, adding up the 2 lives, he was already in his 40s. Seeing this, Li Shimin and Li Yuan looked at each other. Then, suddenly, a burst of hearty laughter erupted. Ha ha ha, the little guy is actually shy? I heard that the daughter of the Zhang family's pastry shop is your legal wife. This is a good thing. Good things come in pairs, ha ha ha. Not bad, young and promising. Chapter 411. Zhang Feng had long been hit so hard that he rolled his eyes fiercely. But regarding this matter, he really did not have a shred of a way. Old master, can we not touch the pot that doesn't boil? I'm going to freaking die from this matter. You don't know my neighbors, especially that old scholar, you don't know. That motherf asterisk cur is my matter. But he's so anxious that it's like he's going to get married. You tell me, what kind of matter is this? This is a big matter of marriage. At least get to know the girl first, meet her or something, right? I don't know anything about this. I don't even know who's tall, short, fat, or thin. How can I dare to agree? What if when the time comes and the red veil is lifted, revealing a big flat face that weighs a few hundred pounds, what should I do? I, Zhang Feng, am a person who will mix in the imperial court in the future. Can I marry such a person? Zhang Feng's words once again caused Li Yuan to laugh out loud. Then do you want old man to personally come and check for you? All right, this matter. Don't worry about it, I'll do it myself. Let's drink and drink, we'll talk about future matters in the future. Anyway, this marriage has to wait until I enter. That's true. Li Yuan nodded. A man has to first establish his career, then get married. This way there's also a guarantee. Right, if you really want to enter the imperial court, if old man has some relations and connections, do you want to? All right, the time is not right. I don't want to enter the imperial court for the time being. Zhang Feng shook his head, directly rejecting Li Yuan's suggestion. At the very least, he had to wait until that Guanlong force was completely eradicated. Then entering the imperial court would be a wise move. Entering now? That was nothing but courting death. Moreover, once they knew that all these things were caused by him, how could it be? His skin would be peeled off in minutes, not to mention his little life. Speaking of this matter, Zhang Feng had a toothache. He seriously suspected that this broken system of his, was it broken? Or had he completely forgotten about this matter? Now he could only take one step at a time. Anyway, it was still early, and he was only 20 years old. What was the hurry? Seeing that Zhang Feng didn't want to grind his teeth on this matter, only then did Li Yuan bring the topic back to the 18 beats of Huga. I heard that the 18 beats of the Hujia was the top palace music of the Han dynasty. However, with the passage of time and the change of dynasties, this thing has long been lost. That old man Jingshu also heard that she had learned it from an old palace, made of the previous dynasty. I wonder how little brother Zhang Feng was able to break this song. With this question, Li Shimin's interest was piqued. I've heard about this from Qian. I even have the lyrics for your zither song. But I'm curious. Li Yuan recovered and asked. Li Shimin nodded. Father, it is indeed so. You are also very clear about this matter. Once we go against those people, and you also know about brother Zhang Feng's ability. What Qianer said before is true. You see, after all, I am not young anymore. If I come to learn, it is definitely impossible. Therefore, I want Qian'er to follow Brother Zhangfeng. Li Yuan nodded. He didn't say anything. However, although today he only witnessed Zhang Feng's literary attainments and talent in poetry, it couldn't prove anything. Moreover, he also had to test Zhang Feng on this matter. After all, becoming the crown prince's teacher could be a big or small matter. If the people in the imperial court knew, it would be difficult to handle. Moreover, the most important thing was that it was indeed time for the imperial court to think about the successor. Let's not talk about other things first. Just the study made Li Yuan very concerned. In Li Yuan's heart, Zhang Feng was like a mystery. The more he understood, the more he felt that Zhang Feng was wrapped in a layer of fog. The more he wanted to uncover this layer of fog at this time, and see what was hidden under this layer of fog. At this time, Li Yuan was really attracted by Zhang Feng's mystery. While chatting, the sky also couldn't help but darken. Li Shimin looked at the sky and then looked at Zhang Feng, who didn't show any signs of waking up. He said, "Father, why don't we go back and come back tomorrow?" Li Yuan looked at the sky and frowned slightly. "Today, I won't go back. I will stay here. I think this small tavern is quite good." Li Shimin couldn't help but be shocked. "Father, this won't do. How can I let you stay here?" "What? Zhang Feng kid can stay here, but I can't? If I come back tomorrow, it will take time to go back and forth. Tonight, I said I won't go back. You go back first." Li Yuan flatly rejected Li Shimin's suggestion. Instead, he just lay on the recliner and closed his eyes. This couldn't help but make Li Shimin anxious. "Father, if something happens to you, However, Li Yuan didn't even bother with Li Shimin. This couldn't help but make Li Shimin somewhat anxious. "Your Majesty, why don't you go back first? Tonight, I will let Yuqi bring people here. Yuqi and I will protect Grand. Call Master Li." Li Shimin glanced at Wei Shuyu with slight displeasure. But in the end he glanced at Li Yuan. He clenched his teeth and said, "That's fine. Tonight, let Old Chen and Yuqi come personally. This way, I can be at ease. But don't disturb the neighborhood." Yes. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.